Okay, we're resuming our meeting. We opened earlier at 6:20 p.m. We were in executive session. We're now back in public session. And the first order of business, as always, is public input. If there's anybody here that would like to be heard about on any issue that's not on the agenda, we'll hear from you now. Otherwise, we're going to move on with the agenda. And I think you guys are here for the naming rights, which we'll get to right after the next time on the agenda, okay? We also have tonight introductions for our new coordinator of elementary special ed, coordinator of secondary special ed, and coordinator of digital learning. And I'm going to turn this over to the superintendent for introductions.
Thank you, Chairman Venezia. I am so pleased to welcome our three new administrators to tell the school committee a little bit about themselves, their former experience, and why they decided that they wanted to join us in North Reading. I just want to begin by saying we couldn't be happier with our selection, and they have hit the ground running. They've already made significant contributions to the North Reading Public Schools, and I'm just sorry that I'm not going to get to work with them for a much longer period of time. But I'm going to ask each one of them to approach the microphone so that we can have this on a recording for the community. And if you could just go to the microphone, just state your name and what you've done in the past and what brings you to North Reading. Kristen, do you want to start, since you are a veteran of the North Reading Public School District already? And Kristen Burke is our new coordinator of elementary education.
Hi.
Elementary special education, sorry.
I'm Kristen Burke. I'm the new coordinator of elementary special education here for North Reading. Previous to that, this position, I worked 2 years as a team chair here in North Reading. And previous to that, I was also an evaluation team supervisor. I have some experience working with the Department of Education as well. I am thrilled to be here. I was very excited for this opportunity and to further serve the community of North Reading. Welcome.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee at all? Anything?
I served with her on the most recent pupil personnel services search, which was unsuccessful, but I think we...
Was it her fault that it was
No.
unsuccessful?
I was going to say no.
All
We had a great search committee, and we
yeah.
worked really hard, and she was a really big part of that search committee. So it was a pleasure serving with her, and I'm glad
Likewise.
you're in a new position.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Kristen. Thanks.
Thank you. Maureen? Maureen Ryan is our new coordinator of secondary special education.
Hi, thank you. I'm Maureen Ryan. I previously have worked for many years as a private education consultant. I also have worked in the town of Wakefield, and I'm thrilled to be here. I have many years of both professional and personal experience working with students with special needs. This is a very exciting time for North Reading. There's a lot going on. It's been a very welcoming summer since I started, and I really look forward to working with both the staff and the students in developing some very positive relationships with the families in the community. So I'm very excited to be here.
Great.
Thank you, Maureen.
Well,
Any
thank you.
comments, questions?
I have a question for Kathy.
Yes.
These are the two positions we spoke about back a couple of months ago, correct? Kind of a reshuffling or reorganizing of how we staff the special education department. I just want to make sure I'm on the...
That's a great question, Mel. What we did do in the area of special education was restructure. We formerly had an assistant director of pupil personnel services, an evaluation team chairperson. Kristen filled the evaluation team chairperson position, and we had a vacancy for our assistant director. So working with our current pupil personnel director, Dr. Valerie Flynn, we took a look at some similar models in other communities and presented this current model to you. School committee thankfully approved that model, and now we have two outstanding candidates filling the positions.
Now, with the secondary school position now filled, I think one of the issues we talked about were programs related to behavioral issues at the middle school. And is that something we'll be able to maybe start building now?
That's correct. It is part of NRPS 2016 under Student Services. It was in our plan for last school year, and because we were in significant transition. We decided to put that on hold, but I know that we will be moving forward with with that proposal, and it will appear in the budget process as we begin the FY16 budget development phase.
One last question. Does this change at all the responsibilities of the Pupil Personnel Services Director, or do those responsibilities stay the same?
The responsibilities essentially stay the same, but now we really have a focused special ed team that will work together on the new educator evaluation process, as well as the development of programs and services for our students.
Okay, sounds good.
Maureen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. And now I'd like to introduce Nathan Campbell, our new Coordinator of Digital Learning, our much anticipated position.
Yes.
So Nathan, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Nathan Campbell. I come from Minnesota via Chicago. I had 4 years of secondary French teaching experience that I brought from Minneapolis Public Schools to Chicago Public Schools, and I was in the classroom there for 3 years, and then I took a position outside of the classroom to lead an iPad cohort within a building, and had great success with that. And then I stepped out of the classroom, stepped out of that building and joined a team at CPS Central Office, where I oversaw an iPad deployment across 16 schools throughout the system. And just to echo what Maureen had said in terms of the excitement and the energy that have brought she and Kristen and I to these new positions in North Reading, there's this beautiful, beautiful building that I see outside my office window.
You're kidding me. Where?
And I cannot wait to get inside and to begin to unwrap all the beautiful things inside with the students and faculty and staff come this fall. On top of that, we are able to recycle and redeploy smart boards and desktops and laptops in our middle school and elementary schools. We're currently in operation with that as well, so I can't wait to get those into the hands of the teachers and students as well this fall and really begin to digitize so much more of what we do with our kids throughout the learning process. So thank you.
Are we ready to rumble up there on September 8th, Nathan?
Where's Patrick? Patrick is in a better position.
You're going to send it uphill. I thought he was going to send it downhill.
He and I were up there just this evening looking in some classrooms, and we're talking over dinner that it feels so much more real now with the classrooms being set up, the furniture's present,
Right.
Technology's been installed, and just to physically see it, of course it makes it more real. Systems are coming online slowly but surely. I believe all but just a few of our wireless access points are currently up and running, which is phenomenal for our network because the building was built for 3 to 1, meaning 3 devices on for every student or faculty staff member in the on premise, and we have the capacity up and running. So
Good.
I think we're going to be good.
I don't care how it works, as long as it works. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Indeed.
I know you've only been here since, I think, July 1st you
Yes.
started. So I'm not looking for a comprehensive
Okay.
answer that touches every point here, but where do you think we are as a school district in terms of technology implementation? And by that I mean, do you think we're set up pretty well district-wide to meet the needs of our students? Are there specific areas you see as challenges for the district where we should be pointing our investments at, things like that?
He doesn't wait, does he?
No.
He doesn't
Well,
let
you've
any
had
punches.
7 weeks.
I had 7 weeks. Let me say that if the building weren't coming online, I would worry. And I would worry because with the building coming online and we're able to, as I said a moment ago, repurpose so much equipment into the lower grades, that really bolsters where we are. Without that new building coming online and seeing what the static deployments were, I would have been concerned as someone with my title. I would have really been pushing for a lot more equity being thrown at those resources, but you have done so already very handsomely appropriated money and funds for those things. Looking at the current tech plan that goes from 2011 to 2015, that it's written in such a way to cast an eye towards the future. Patrick and I are currently we've begun discussions about pulling together a tech committee so we can begin this fall to write the new plan for the next 5 years and what that will look like with a new website, possibly social media, with the BYOD coming online, which means bring your own device.
Right.
So we'll be structuring professional development. My plan is to structure professional development in all of our buildings so teachers know how, when kids bring these devices in the classroom, know how to really harness them and use them. At the same time, protect our students from things online that we probably don't want to enter our classroom with the BYOD ecosystem. So yes, we are in a good position, and we will remain that way.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nathan.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan.
Appreciate it, thank you. Kathy, did you introduce Valerie, or did?
No, but I
Okay,
would like
all
to,
right.
again, bring attention to the fact that Dr. Valerie Flynn, who is our Pupil Personnel Services Director again this year, we did manage to acquire a waiver from the Department of Ed to keep Valerie for another year. She was only with us for 1, now she's with us for 2, has joined us this evening to welcome both Kristen and Maureen to the district. And Dr. Patrick Daly, who attends many more meetings than he ever used to, is also here this evening, and he and Patrick have been working tirelessly, along with the rest of the instructional technology staff, to make sure that this building is ready to open on September 8th, as well as all the other responsibilities they have in our elementary schools and our middle school to ensure what Nathan has just said, that all of our students have access to the tools they need to be successful in our schools. So again, thank you all for being here this evening. I thoroughly appreciate it. You do not need to stay, although you're welcome to.
They haven't done anything wrong, don't make them stay.
Okay.
Let them go home to their families.
But again, welcome
Please.
to the school
All right,
district.
Welcome.
please. Thank you, guys. All right, next on our agenda is, we're going to skip around a little bit, and we've got naming of school facilities. Just a brief preamble to this discussion. As we're all aware, there is a citizens petition that's been filed with the Board of Selectmen for placement on the October town meeting warrant. That petition is to name the new middle school after Charlie Jones, a well-known educator from the middle school who was vice principal at the middle school for 58 years. As a result of the citizens petition, the Board of Selectmen has requested an opinion from town council, and town council has rendered an opinion, and just to simplify it, that any building that comes within the jurisdiction of the school department is the custodial department of that building, then any naming of that building has to come through or by way of the school committee. We have a long-standing policy that goes back to 1974 that states that although we may name school buildings after individuals, we do not name the middle school or the high school after anyone. So in order to do this, there would have to be a policy change for us to even approve this type of a request. At this point in time, I'd open it up to some comments from the board members, from the committee members, and then I'm going to ask Mark or anyone else who wants to be heard for some comments from them. So again, this is based on a combination of a couple of things, the opinion from town council and our own policy that essentially does not permit, and it's a long-standing policy, 40 years, the naming of the middle school and or the high school after any individual person. Somebody want to start off?
I will.
Mel can go first.
I'm an advocate of keeping our existing policy. I believe it was put there for a purpose, because we only have one middle school and one high school, that the name of those schools should be North Reading Middle School, North Reading High School. It's no slight to Mr. Jones, no slight to any other resident of this town who may deserve such an honor. I'd like to find another way to honor Mr. Jones with a portion of the middle school or a portion of the high school or the Main Street section of that connects both schools. But on principle, I'm opposed to changing our policy.
Anyone else?
Well, I'm in agreement with keeping the current policy. It's 40 years old, but it's still current in my view. And the feeling I have is that with one middle school and one high school, these are bought and paid for by the citizens of the town, and we should be calling them the town of North Reading's middle school and high school.
Karen?
I did a lot of thinking about this after our last session, particularly around process and policy, and getting this today. I only had a few moments to react to it before our meeting. I'm in agreement about our policy in terms of naming our single middle school and high school after North Reading in honor of our taxpayers and those who live here and residents who supported education. And I think it's incredibly important to honor the entire community, because we've bought in to having a world-class education in this district. But I also looked at other towns and did my homework around what are their policies, and basically I really couldn't find very many high schools and middle schools where they were the single high school or single middle school of a small town, where they were named. And I went to Hanover High School, which is very similar to North Reading in terms of demographics, and I talked to some people who were there, and they said we would never have considered it because it's really an honor for the town. But we've named so many other things, like, labs, science labs, and wings of our schools after important people. Another thing I also learned was that it was very important for the school committee to bring together a lot of people to really validate a process and have it be transparent, because I wasn't sure what this decision was going to be. So I still think it's incredibly important to have people who are representative of the entire district be part of the process in naming anything. I don't think the school committee should unilaterally just say we're gonna name anything after a certain person. I think it should be the choice of the community and should be heard by the community. So those are just two things that I wanted to say. I think it's wonderful that there's this impetus to name something after Charlie Jones, and I still think that's important for us to do. I want to honor him in a way that makes sense and that the community endorses, rather than these 5 people endorsing it. I think we still need to approve it, and it would still go to town meeting for approval, as I understand it from the ruling, which is incredibly important. And I also want to honor other educators and other people in our community in other ways, as we did with Ms. Dell and a number of other individuals. So I think there's still more for us to do, and I think this opens the door for us to have more collegial, collaborative discussion in the community. So,
Janine?
Well, the good part about the fourth in line is everyone's already pretty much said what I want to say, so I can echo most of it. And I think to honor someone is a special tribute, and I think that there's probably other people down the line that is equally, should be acknowledged. So to name an entire school after them, I find difficult to do, but I don't have a problem with naming a science lab or a history classroom or whatever that specialty was after a person. Or like I had mentioned, the Main Street, instead of calling it Main Street, call it Charles E. Jones Way, because it kind of bridges the middle school to the high school. So that I would totally be in favor of.
I forgot to add one thing I found. Somebody suggested to me from another community that they actually have days during the year where they celebrate individuals who have contributed to their community, as opposed to naming a specific building, but actually celebrate them and learn about who they were, what their character was, so that students can really understand the history of the community of the school that they're in. So I throwing it out there as something that I heard that was different than naming a building.
Well, I'll make a brief comment, then we'll open it up to the audience. But, it's a little more difficult for me because I know Charlie Jones very well, and I respect him tremendously. And I think I talked about this the last time you were here, Mark, as to, what he did above and beyond just being a teacher and a principal and a vice principal. 2 of my kids did go on the summer trip, and to me that's duty above and beyond the call of duty to run something like that for 27 or 28 years, whatever it was. I guess, too, my issue is more with the process that's been followed as opposed to even our policy. I just don't think this is a good way to proceed with a citizen's petition and a town meeting vote. And I say that only because it's a flawed, and quite frankly, I thought it was a flawed process before, and town council's kind of validated that by saying that's not the process. The process is that it has to be approved by the school committee and then go to town meeting for a vote. Otherwise, we could have this happening, every town meeting, twice a year. The policy that we have has been in place for 40 years, and a lot of school committee people and a lot of administrations have come and gone, and that policy's still in place. Am I somebody that would be open-minded if you came back and wanted to asked us to at least consider this again as a school committee and hold a public hearing and maybe go through a process that's a little bit more, credible than the process that we're doing now, I guess I'd keep an open mind to it. But right now, I'd have to agree with my brothers and sisters on the committee that I can't be in favor of it under these circumstances. But Mark, I'll turn it over to you for, comment. And I think it's a very, very, very well-intentioned thing that you've done. It just seems that it's causing some polarization between some people as to whether or not it should happen or it shouldn't happen, and that's a shame because, like I said, I mean, Charlie is as deserving as anybody that I could think of this type of an honor. So, Mark or Grace?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Hi, good evening all. My name is Grace Ventura. I'm 33-year-old no, I'm not 33 years old, even though I kind of think I look at it.
You look very good for your age. You really do.
Thank you, Jerry. I gotta say that. 33-year resident of North Reading, 2 children, both who have been with Mr. Jones on his trips, who left me as children and returned as young adults. So I went through this process with Mark and Lil. We went to the selectmen last week, and they told us about your ability to be the ones to make these decisions, and that was what the process was. I asked a question at that time as to whether what they knew about other schools, districts, and what they did. They were unable to answer me that. So I'm a teacher myself, of nurses, so I went back and I did some research, as you did with Lillian's help, and I'd just like to leave these articles with you. They're Westford and Reading and Chelmsford and Lexington and Concord, and they have, if you want to talk about process, it's important to me, process, it's what I do. I've learned process my whole life, and they have naming responsibilities, naming committees that are responsible for these buildings, and it's a whole group of people that get together to look at naming rights. And I'm just going to read one thing. I just want to say this, that this is from Westford, and it says, if a facility is to be named after a person, that person must be of exemplary character, have made an outstanding contribution to education, humanity, or the community, and have displayed outstanding leadership, or be a person of historical significance. Charlie Jones is every single one of those. Charlie Jones is not just an educator. Charlie Jones did this on his own and took these kids with no pay to teach them to be responsible adults. There are more kids in this town who have had opportunities, and I work with physicians constantly who live in much more expensive, richer towns than we are, and they never had these opportunities. They could not believe that a small town of North Reading was giving their students this opportunity. And I just have to say that because Charlie Jones, just as an educator or a principal or a vice principal, is not just what that is. Charlie Jones is a citizen that all of us should look up to. So I'm just going to leave these with you if you don't mind.
Thank you, Grace.
Sure. There's copies for each one of you. Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
Mark, did you?
Yeah.
So I guess I appreciate all the input from each one of you tonight. And, there was talk last time of maybe putting together a subcommittee and kind of talking about this and, bringing in more people, maybe some other possible candidates. But I'm getting the feeling that everybody on the board here feels really strongly about not naming either the junior high or the high school after an individual. So I'm getting the feeling if we did that, it would be an exercise in futility. And if one of you could tell me that that wouldn't be the case, that if we put it together and we had a lot more input from the community, you would be open to naming the middle school and maybe the high school if there was somebody else that was, worthy of it after an individual. I mean, I don't want to waste a lot of people's time and put together a subcommittee and talk about it if you guys are set in your ways that you do not want the school to be named after anybody but the taxpayers of North Reading.
I, for one, Mark, would be willing to, we have a policy subcommittee, and obviously it's our policy that basically states that we are not going to name the middle school or the high school after anyone. And the policy subcommittee basically takes on, reviews of different policies. I would certainly be willing, and you've heard the opinion of the committee, but I'd certainly be willing to recommend that the policy subcommittee take another look at the policy and maybe go so far as a policy subcommittee to maybe have some type of a public meeting or public hearing on the policy, just to see if there is any type of latitude, flexibility, reconsideration. I just don't think this is the way to do it. I honestly, the process bothered me from day one. It still bothers me. And I'm somebody that would kind of be open-minded about this. I just don't think it's the right way to do it. I'm afraid that, quite frankly, if in fact we were able to just go through citizens petition, town meeting vote, particularly an October town meeting vote,
Right.
that we could be changing the names of buildings every town meeting, to be honest with you. So I'd certainly be willing to look at it through our subcommittee and see if anything comes out of that and leads us to someplace else. But I certainly can't, and I'm not suggesting that just to deter you from going forward to town meeting. I'm saying that I'd be willing to do that. Grace?
Mr. Venezia, I'm sorry. How many times since 1974 has anybody petitioned to have a school named after somebody?
I've been on this committee for 15 years, and nobody's done it in that time frame. So prior to that, I don't know. I know the policy's been ratified a couple of times since '74, and it's an interesting policy. You look at it and you go, well, what's the reason for that? But it was funny, when you started to talk to my committee members and everything, they were pretty much, everybody was in agreement that, and I think everybody probably read the editorial in the transcript this week, which summed it up far more eloquently than I could, as to basically the reasons why the committee is not inclined to do something like this.
So, can I, oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead, Karen,
Cliff
Karen,
was
and then
before me.
Cliff. Cliff, then Karen.
No, I'll go, okay.
All right, Karen.
I think, we've done a few weeks of homework or thinking about this. These types of issues are longer term than that, and this policy's been around for 40 years. It's longer than I'm old, so, I understand there's a history. But if the community came out, and when I say community, a lot of people in the community told us, you're wrong, and convinced us, I would be willing to listen to that. I just know from my short-term research that I wasn't convinced. But I'm always willing to be convinced of something, but I would rather not if something be sort of, done quick and dirty just because, somebody wants that done. I want to make sure the community feels the way they do. And if they truly do, and it was amazing listening to what people have said about Charlie Jones, not knowing him personally and not having lived here that long. But I think it's important to have, evidence that people want that, and that people actually live here, and that they could live with this long term, not just short term. 50 years from now, somebody want to rename the middle school because nobody knows who Charlie Jones is, or is it same with our elementary schools. I mean, they've been named for a long time. And I actually learned all the stories of the different people who were named after our elementary schools. Some of them were quite interesting. And so I was sort of thinking, well, what if somebody wanted to change them? Like, what would the process be, and would we do that? So we need to hear more from the community. The people I heard from, which was like 10 people, which is not a sample, it's just not, all said they felt that this was just the way it's always been, and they like it. It doesn't bother them. They don't want anything to
When
be
you
divisive.
say this is the way it's always been. can you-
So for them, they've lived here knowing that the high school and middle school have always been called North Reading Middle School, North Reading High School. And for some, they're very strong about that because this is everyone's school, and they want that to be. But I haven't heard from anyone counter to that, other than what I heard publicly. No one has called me. And it's not like we live by consensus either, but I would like to hear more from people, and I'd be open to that kind of forum if it were truly a community response.
Cliff?
I've been a resident for 47 years, and to my knowledge, there's never been anyone proposed to change the name of the schools. My kids went to North Reading schools. They went through Charlie Jones programs. They went on us trips. They got to know him pretty well, and because my wife and I are pretty involved parents, we got to know Charlie Jones well. And he's a great guy. He really, really is. There's a lot of other people who didn't get quite as much attention as Charlie Jones along the way that have also contributed vast amount of effort to the children of North Reading. There's probably another 30 out there that have, in different levels, contributed very substantially to our kids. And I think that's probably why I think that this, is the wrong thing to do. I've almost been a little surprised that Charlie Jones hasn't stood up and said, don't do this, stop the madness. Because that's the kind of guy Charlie Jones is. I would expect that he'd do that. We have a piece of property in Maine that has a point, and way back when we first looked at the property, my son said, Dad, we're gonna name this Laura's Point. That was his youngest sister. And that's a great idea. And when we went back, the real estate guy had actually put a sign down that said Laura's Point. I said, well, I'm gonna carry it further than that. So I sent a letter to the USGS. I wanted to change the name of this place to, and they sent me back
You flew too close to the sun, Cliff.
a sheet of paper. And one of the first things that it said on there is the person has to be deceased in order to name it after him. And I said, well, forget about it. Put the paper in the trash bin. We're not going to do that. They take place names very seriously. We should take place names very seriously. And I think in this case, I'm one of the members of the policy subcommittee, and I would not look favorably on changing the policy.
So can I maybe just try to address something you just said, and that is, Charlie's been very humbled by this whole experience.
Mm-hmm.
And he hasn't told me this, but I think, and this is just my opinion, the reason why he hasn't held up his hand and said, stop this, and I wouldn't call it madness.
Thank you. I was going to comment on that myself.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it madness. He feels a deep responsibility to the 1,000 people who came out, signed the petition. He feels a deep responsibility to the 350 of them who are North Reading residents, and he feels a deep responsibility to the 180 people who decided to write a letter on his part. So if he came out and said that, these people who feel as strongly as they do about him, and as strongly they do as about this initiative, that would not be a good message for him to send to those folks who he made such a lasting impression on, that they decided that they really want to do this. So in continuation on that, I know it would be non-binding based upon the opinion of town council, but if there was overwhelming support, we already have overwhelming support, as you know, as I talked about when I was here a month ago. If we had overwhelming support from town meeting, if the warrant stays on there, I would just like to poll each one of you individually and ask you, would that have you at least reconsider that maybe we put together a subcommittee and maybe we at least leave open the possibility that, I know all of you feel very strongly about keeping it named North Reading, but if you saw, and I think you were talking about it, Dr. Karen, that if there was, a lot of folks in this town who really felt that this is something that should happen, if in fact this gets passed at town meeting, would you at least consider maybe putting together a subcommittee so that we could talk about it and then readdress it again in June of next year, where we would obviously need your full support because you guys are the controlling body and you are the custodians of the schools. So I'll start with you, Doctor. Would you, if there was overwhelming support at town meeting, how would you feel?
I feel very strongly that the community's voice should be represented in some way, and that town meeting is the place for it. I would have to consider it if it was overwhelming, because policy doesn't live in a vacuum, so I would consider it for sure. I'm not just,
Mel,
I don't know
I would
what my
ask you.
decision would be.
I would go as far to say, the thing I would look at would be a compromise of some sort, in that I just think North Reading has to be in the names of those two schools. So if we were going to put a name, it would have to be the Jones North Reading Middle School or something like that, the Charles E. Jones North Reading Middle School. That would have to be part of the official title. So that would be something that I wouldn't go as far as naming the school without the North Reading name in it, but I would go with some sort of, I'd listen to some sort of compromise based
And
on.
everybody I've talked to would be very amenable to that.
So that's something
Very
that I
amenable
would,
to that.
that's where I could get to.
Jerry?
Listen, I would consider it right now before we go to town meeting as to at least looking at it and reconsidering it. The problem is, and again, town meeting is obviously a representative body of the community, and I'm not sure how many people will have a town meeting, but it's far from a referendum, you know, and unfortunately, most of what we do doesn't go to a referendum, it goes to
Right.
an elected board or committee, and then to town meeting, but, you know, like I said, I have an open mind about it.
Mr. Bowers, would that at least have you reconsider?
If you put 1,300 people at town meeting,
Oh, God.
then I would reconsider some. You gotta have 1,300 people saying yes.
Any reason why that's the watershed number, or is that just?
It's about the number that voted for the new school. And
Oh, yeah.
it would
The
seem like
education block.
that might be about the right number to start to raise a question.
Okay. Janine?
I'm just sitting here thinking, I mean, there's a core shared facility with the high school, so do you say come to the media library of the Jones North Reading Middle School / high school? I mean, or do you, you know, so it's, it's not only tied to the middle school, now it's tied to the facilities that are shared with the high school. So that's another thing that needs to be kind of thought process put into it. So to totally name it Charles E. Jones Middle School, no, I can't see doing that. And I still can't understand, one, the urgency of it being put through to town meeting in October, and two, why there's no like concession, or maybe I'm incorrect in saying that, of instead of naming the entire school, why not like the distant learning lab, which has a huge impact on both schools, the Main Street, a room, anything? Why you're not like kind of giving one way or the other? It's either I want the middle school named this, or it's not, and you're not
Well,
kind of
that was my
conceding to-
comments when we met a month ago, and that was before we heard from the town council. So I'm not saying that we would not consider what you're talking about. But, you know, what I am saying is that if you see people get up at town meeting, and that's, obviously, we've already talked about it, that's only gonna be a suggestion from the town, and it's gonna be up to you folks. I mean, if there was overwhelming support, and I agree, I mean, somebody else mentioned it, if it was called the, you know, Charles E. Jones North Reading Middle School, would that be something that you could possibly entertain?
I would have to do a little bit more thinking on it, but
Okay?
it's a possibility if there was overwhelming support from the community.
And do you consider, as Mr. Bowers does, 1,300 to be the watermark?
I think
So
she's
we have a
looking
little bit
more
more
like
leeway.
1250.
1250.
How many people
Yeah.
did we have at October town meeting last year?
27.
49.
I will say, you know, my preference would be, and I know this isn't your preference, but is to take that Main Street, this is my personal preference, which every kid in that school is basically gonna walk through every single day. And have a huge sign up there that says, you know, Charles E. Jones Way, or something like, because that is gonna be the most visible part of this project. So
I believe that to
that's
be
my
true.
personal preference, if I had a preference. I still am willing to slide to that compromise I mentioned that you just talked about, but my preference is to take a big hunk of the building and name it after, because that is a big
And
hunk of the
furthermore,
building.
I would like to see, and someone mentioned this before, a plaque of why.
Right.
I don't know who Kipner is.
Kipnis.
Kipnis.
You don't- Of course you don't. You don't know
Sorry.
Kipner either.
You don't know,
'cause
you don't know
this
Barry
happened
Kipner?
before. No.
You should go to more basketball
I mean,
games.
I know who Frank Carey is because I've been around,
Since-
you know,
yeah, since-
for 18, 19
Right.
years now. But I don't know Charles E. Jones. So I would like to know why, you know, Kenny Field, am I saying it right? I mispronounce names really bad, so don't take it.
Oh, Arthur Kenny Field, yeah.
Yeah, you know, why he
So it
was
sounds like you know
awarded
more
the
about
honors.
Charles E. Jones than you do about these other.
I do, I do, but it would be
Because of you
nice to
guys.
know, you know, if there's a memorable plaque as to why, you know, why it's important to be.
You know, this is tough, because this is a well-intentioned thing that
Right.
you guys are doing. I mean, there's no ulterior motives.
There's
no-
anybody here who
there's
thinks this
nothing.
is
It's-
awful that you
but-
guys are
but-
doing
But
this.
no, these guys, I mean, this is a well-intentioned thing. They feel strongly about this, and I think I know how they feel. I feel like this about certain people too. And it's hard to come in and say, well, geez, we'd like to name the school after Charlie Jones, and then say, well, instead we'll name a room after him, or, I understand that. But I think it is a fallback position that at some point we'd certainly want to consider.
I have one more thing to say after you're finished.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just thinking about Main Street and what Janine just said, but I've actually been thinking a lot about the history that I learned when you came to see us the other meeting. And I was thinking about the symbolism of Charlie's trips and how people, like you said, Grace, transition from being middle school to the high school and beyond. And to me, the middle school and the high school are now combined in this wonderful facility that is amazing. But there's a transition. That space is an interaction between those two. It's a pathway that everyone's going to beat in that school every single day. And to me, that represents sort of what he did, which was to take people, from one place to the other. And not just physically, but in character. And that's incredibly important. And I like symbolism. To me, that would be something that wouldn't change for a very long period of time. These buildings are going to be around a long time.
They better be.
They better be, because we've paid a whole lot of money for them. But to me, I would rather kids go down Main Street and understand that there was a man who actually chose to help kids go from point A to point B in a meaningful way. And that might do it for me.
So, and I'm not trying to convince you of this, but because I know you want to name the school, but once you get into this high school and see the Main Street, I'm not saying that's going to change your mind, but it is, I don't use words like
It's
that. It's
intoxicating.
magnificent. It is just unbelievable. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it is.
It's phenomenal. So I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm still willing to go to that compromise place, but I'm just asking, keep an open mind on your side too. And I think maybe it is worth, after town meeting, looking at getting a committee together.
I think we should at least take a look at it. Jeff?
Is this appropriate? I don't want to take your time.
No, go ahead, Jeff.
Jeff, come up to the microphone.
Yeah, thanks. Jeff Simons from Hickory Lane. Mel, just to pick up on something you just said, that there is a piece of this that I really do hate. And let me preface that. We just met. I know your family, and I knew Charlie Jones, and my son Nathan and Charlie had a great relationship together. And I appreciate your passion and all. But something that really, really bothers me about this is that town meeting and citizens petition should not be making school policy.
Right.
And this is policy, and
Right.
where does that stop? Why wouldn't citizens just talk about what should be in the curriculum?
Well, I'm not suggesting
What
that-
should be in textbooks?
I'm not suggesting it would make policy, Jeff, but I think, I'm firm on the name North Reading being in the name.
Right.
I'm not going to change on that. But I'm open-minded to possibly adding a Charles E. Jones in there
Right.
somewhere. You heard what I preferred.
Mhm.
I do think that it's something that we as a committee have not, it's been on the books for 40 years. We have not looked at that policy. We haven't looked at it. We never
Well,
even had.
we reviewed
it.
We
No, we
reviewed
reviewed it in 2012.
Right.
You were here.
We
We
maintained
did
it.
it.
But we didn't talk about it. We said, okay, this is the policy. It's approved.
Right.
And the thing that kind of brought this to the forefront was when we initially thought, well, they can name a school building with 10 names on a petition, and then, then town council came in with his ruling. I don't think it would, it's not gonna make me change town
Mhm.
policy, but it's gonna make me look at it, or school committee policy. I just think it's something to consider based on who Charlie was and what he did. Again, my preference is to name something big within the school after him. That's my preference.
That'd be my preference as well, just
Right.
my own opinion,
Right.
and knowing Charlie and everything that he did. I think that would, to me, would be fitting, and no disrespect to your intention, but I just think policy, not that it can never be changed, but I think there has to be, the process needs to be followed, and it has to be a very compelling reason to change that policy.
Yep.
And so I kind of disagree with the movement in that sense. I think that gets to be a very slippery slope, and I don't like the
I know.
possibilities of other sorts of things, that somebody has an idea, they get 10 people or 100 people or 1,300 people, and the school committee is elected to make educational policy and take the input of the administrators as well as parents and the rest of the community too. The other thing I wanted to mention is obviously the timing of this is coming up now because the school's about to open, and I presume that's why you wanted to bring it up at this point. As the school opens, this is how the school gets named. But I have a great concern right now that this issue is dividing people when we should be, the community should be really united and just absolutely thrilled with what's about to happen with this new school. And reading some of the letters to the editor and comments on Facebook, I guess I would respectfully ask that where you see where the school committee stands right now, and this is something that's probably not, I think there will be a process that will be set up that will hear what you're trying to do. But I would hope that you and your supporters and people out that support Charlie would just maybe take a bit of a hiatus from this issue for a little while we open up the new school. I'm as passionate as you about the school. I've been at it for a long time and feel very strongly about it, and I would hate to see this great celebration of this new high school and middle school end up not being as great as it could be, because now people are in two different camps about what the school should be named and this sort of thing. That really concerns me. I think the timing's unfortunate. Obviously the timing is there because the school's about to open. That's how you want it to be named. But so please, I would just ask you respectfully to maybe pick up the process again after we've had a chance to get the school open and have the appropriate celebration of that. And then maybe look at, as maybe Jerry suggested, some public hearings to see, to look at the policy. I think that's the procedure that you probably ought to follow.
Jerry.
Thank you, Jeff.
I can answer. I want to say two things. I don't, I felt a little tension, but I haven't felt that the community is divided. I've gotten, like Karen, I've talked to more people who say we shouldn't name the school after anybody, not just Charlie Jones, but anybody.
There's only 10 people.
Yeah, mine's probably in the same range. A couple people have said they support it. I think it has created some discussion. I will say that. I don't feel the community is divided. The other thing I'll say to you, Jeff, is I don't think you have to worry about us, buckling to public pressure. If you were here for the night of the MCAS Park vote when we had 70 parents in here, each one of them who...
No, it was 69 to 1.
Huh?
It was
Oh, 69 to 1,
1,
right.
yeah.
There was one parent who actually supported it. And we still, we voted the way we thought is right. I mean, am I influenced by public input? Yes. Does it make me vote the way that they want me to vote? No. So it'll influence me in terms of looking at things, but in the end, I'm still going to make my own decision. But I do think, I hear what you're saying. It would be great if this wasn't, like when we opened the high school, this wasn't a topic of discussion up there. And then as soon as that high school's open, we can go back to talking
Right.
about this. I think
Right.
that's fine.
All right, Jeff, thank you. Anybody else? Mark, did you want to say anything in closing? Again, I'm quite certain this is, it's going to be on the warrant, and it'll be discussed. It's the last article, I think, on the warrant for the October town meeting. We, as a committee, are expected to vote as to whether or not to recommend this article. We don't have to do it tonight, unless members want to do it tonight.
Oh.
No,
But we are going to have to do it prior, I shouldn't say we have to, we don't have to, but we certainly should vote as far as a recommendation sometime prior to town meeting. We can do it that night prior, meeting prior to the start of town meeting, so.
I wanted to answer one other question that Grace asked. I think there's never been a group of people so committed to getting something done before. And you asked, has this never happened before at a town meeting? No, because there really hasn't been a group of people, a groundswell of support that was a grassroots effort. So, no, you guys should be proud of that. You got people on a very quick, on very little notice in a very short period of time to come and support something. And I want to be clear, I have nothing against Charlie. I think what you guys have done is awesome. And again, you pushed me to a compromise space that I didn't think I'd get to, so that's good. But
Shocking.
I think after the school opens, we should
Yeah, we'll discuss it.
discuss it and maybe,
We'll
Get a
have a
subcommittee together or
discussion
something.
prior to town meeting,
Right.
so. All right? Mark, thank you.
Thank you.
thanks a lot.
Grace, thank you. Thanks. All right, next on the agenda, we're going to go back to the SSBC update, and I'll turn it over to the superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Venezia. The last secondary school building committee meeting was held on August 12th, beginning at 5:30 p.m. So much has taken place in the area of construction, even since the last
I hope
meeting.
so.
But I will,
Everyone be positive.
Okay,
Just be
I'm being
positive.
but I
Go
have a
ahead,
big
Madam,
question
Go
to
ahead,
ask.
Madam Superintendent,
I've
hold
got a big
off.
question to ask at the end of this.
Go ahead.
as stated by the Gilbane Project Executive Joanna Kripp, construction is almost done. I told her I was going to write that down and report it, and I did. Inspections have taken place and are ongoing. Exterior doors have been installed. All of the shared facilities such as the gymnasium, library media center, cafeteria are in their completion phase. In terms of the middle school, the exterior wall that's now an interior wall on Main Street is being painted and being prepared for opening. The old middle school interior walls are down and corridor walls are up. Excavation for installation and fittings and piping, as well as bracing for seismic and wind, has taken place. Additional roof support is going in, and the footings for the extended central office are in place. The wastewater treatment plant operator is ready to take over. The team room roof is on. Route 62 paving is complete. The traffic light is installed. And the occupancy permit will be issued tomorrow morning. There was an inspection today by our building inspector, and it will be issued in the morning. The middle school traffic pattern was printed in the transcript last week. The high school traffic pattern will be printed in the transcript this week.
It was also on the patch today, the middle school.
And it was on the patch today.
Right.
I had the wonderful opportunity to spend about 3 hours last Friday touring this building site.
I saw it.
And I was in the new construction as well as watching what was taking place on the middle school site. And I have to say, I started at the middle school site. I was with our supervisor of building and grounds, Wayne Hardacre, and he was very generous with his time. And I happened to be at the back of the middle school when an excavator that was the largest I've ever
Yep.
seen in my life, approached the then half of the remaining ceiling over the gymnasium.
Oh, yeah.
And I watched that excavator come in, grab that roof, and just pick it up as if it were matchsticks and throw it on the ground.
Literally
And
ripped it off. It just
it
ripped
was
it off.
incredible. And then, about
Where's the instant
35,
replay?
40
Yeah.
minutes later, the excavator was taken apart and ready to be taken away because it had done its job. And all the other pieces of equipment were in place, removing the debris from the site. I've seen walls down inside the middle school. I've seen missing parts
Those
of
walls
walls.
are supposed to be up.
The central office is completely gone. They've totally taken it away.
No, but the new one's already built.
The new one is pretty much already built, but there's a big gaping hole, and that's because there's going to be new construction there. And I was a little surprised by that. I thought the exterior walls would remain throughout, and that is not the case. There's a lot of new construction going on in that middle school, both on the exterior as well as the interior. It was very impressive. But now back to the high school. What a sight. It is just amazing. It's almost ready. I kept walking through saying, in 2 weeks, I'll be standing on that stage welcoming back the faculty and staff to the North Reading Public Schools to open a new school year. But on Friday, I stood on that stage and I looked out at the seats and I'm thinking, okay, this will be ready. It will be ready. It will be ready in time. There's still a lot to accomplish, but it was extraordinary. And I believe it will be ready, and I cannot wait for that moment when I get to stand on that stage for the first time and welcome everyone back. The facility is amazing. I was on the catwalk in the auditorium looking down. That's pretty frightening, but it is
Really high.
it's impressive. It is a professional performing arts center.
Yes.
I cannot emphasize that anymore. The gymnasium, the bleachers are in,
Green and
tremendous.
gold bleachers.
Green and gold
Green and
bleachers.
gold bleachers. I saw the picture on Facebook. I was like, the bleachers are green and gold. This is awesome.
They
They
made a
are
mistake.
beautiful.
They put color in me?
Yeah.
The kitchen is sparkling stainless steel throughout. The serving area is larger than what we have now, and I think the students will be very impressed. And the classrooms, oh my gosh, the technology that's already in place in the classrooms, the energy saving kinds of I want to say, support systems that are in place, just with the lights going on and off when you walk in and out of the classrooms, are really going to have an impact on the overall budget. I really believe that we will save funding in the
Once both buildings are
utilities.
open, yeah,
Um,
definitely.
I was with Wayne, so of course I had to tour Wayne's World. I saw 3 gorgeous condensing boilers, I saw chillers, I saw heaters, water heaters. I know more than I ever want to know about the infrastructure of a building, but it's all state-of-the-art, and I need to impress that. And with that state-of-the-art capability for the utilities will come, I believe, cost savings in the future for the North Reading Public Schools.
I agree.
I'm kind of off script, but it was really impressive. So in terms of the design, the punch list is getting done as sections of the buildings are completed. FF&E deliveries are ongoing. We have so many deliveries that are taking place. Technology servers have been relocated and hardware installed. Commissioning continues, and substantial completion is right around the corner. I'd like to give a shout out to our instructional technology team under the direction of Dr. Patrick Daly. They have been working round the clock and on weekends with our technology consultant to ensure that that building is ready for our students on September 8th. They have done a phenomenal job. The move has been poetry in motion, with so many logistical details coming together to relocate both the high school and the middle school, as well as the central office, in preparation for opening day. And in addition, our custodial staff should be commended for going above and beyond to assist with and prepare for welcoming our staff and students back to school. At the last meeting, invoices were approved. Change order number 19 was approved for a sum of $313,690.50. The SSBC voted to approve up to $67,260 to pave Sherman Road with the help of the North Reading DPW to have that in tip-top shape for the community. And the next regular meeting of the SSBC has been moved to, not tomorrow, but next Tuesday, September 2nd, 2014, beginning at 5:30 p.m. And would the committee like to add
Thank you,
any
Kathy.
additional?
Janine, Cliff, do you want to add anything?
I also went through on Friday, and there's an awful lot of furniture that isn't in its right place yet, and it's all stacked up and right in the way. And there's a lot of cleaning to be done, final cleaning, and there's still a long punch list of little items, touch-up paint here and there. But it is amazing how it's working together. And I'm sure that we'll know that there's still a construction site right next door on opening. I'm positive of that. But at the same time, the school, the high school and shared facilities are in very, very good shape. I actually went into the locker room, the high school boys' locker room, and wandered into the shower right after they had finished the adjusting of the temperature control valves for the water.
You were in the boys' shower, right?
Boys' shower. Of course it was a boys' shower. I never go into so. And it smelled exactly like a locker room.
That's perfect.
It smelled exactly that way.
They even built the smell.
Had all of
So
that,
you pipe
that in?
Yes.
you know, all of that moisture, and, just exactly right. So everything's being worked and tuned up to right on track. It's a wonderful facility.
Janine?
I actually have missed the last couple of weeks, so I'm very jealous. I can't wait to get back in there.
I'll say this, that honestly, Cliff and Janine know more about that building and know every square foot of that building, more so than anybody else, and except maybe Chuck Carucci, I think, you know.
But you go through it.
I go through it
Every day,
every day,
Fred.
too.
Right, just-
But, go ahead, Mel.
I know you can't answer this, I'm gonna ask this tomorrow night. I don't understand getting an occupancy permit if construction's still going on. How can we occupy a building where they're still doing construction? I guess I don't understand that.
The substantial completion. And when there is substantial completion
I
and
think
all
they
of the
put
safety
conditions.
measures are put into place, then you can assume occupancy. When the town assumes the insurance for the building, that is considered taking over occupancy.
My question is this, we're doing tours next week for students. Will they all have to be wearing hard hats, and
No,
tomorrow people could go in that building and not be wearing a hard hat?
No.
no.
But you
Well,
just said we
once
may
it's
give you
signed.
occupancy permit in the morning,
Once it's
Yeah.
signed.
but you still have to wear a hard hat.
Yeah.
I
But-
don't understand it.
I'm not.
That's all, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
figure it out.
I'm not the one that issues the occupancy permit, but I believe there are probably conditions attached to it regarding, certain things that have to be done, but all the inspections have been done. All the inspections have passed, is health, electrical, plumbing, fire safety, alarms, sprinklers, all those things have passed. I think the distinction is, right now, you could occupy that building if you just pulled all the construction guys out of there and pulled all the tools and equipment out, you could occupy it. Thing that they're doing in there now are things that do not have to be inspected again, like cleanup and painting and
Right.
things of that nature.
Finish work.
Yeah.
And-
Finish.
And exterior, there'll be construction fences that will block access to the
Yeah.
to construction on the middle school.
Because the construction is just
That's
adjacent to
isolated,
the.
as the middle school was with the current construction.
But I guess we don't, you said no, we don't know for sure next week. I mean, if,
I
No,
have
we
been
don't.
assured.
Yeah, I think.
3:30 on Tuesday, it's gonna be accessible without hoops and
And,
hard hats.
and if
Okay.
it's not, then we'll have to make changes in those,
Right. But right now,
Those
I am
arrangements.
counting on that schedule
Yeah.
moving forward.
yep.
Nobody has given me any reason not to.
The only thing I'd say is that the transcript did a great job last week of putting the new middle school, old high school traffic pattern in the
Yes.
paper. Please look at it, and the same thing this week with the high school. It's very, very important that people follow those patterns. They're not gonna be any exceptions, so I think it's gonna be critical to the orderly flow of traffic, certainly the first week and thereafter,
And
so.
I have
thereafter.
one other question and point to make, and this is more for Jerry and Cliff and Janine. I noticed yesterday that people were driving up and down the old access road to the high school, to the main entrance. I was under the impression that was still supposed to be closed. Looked like someone had moved the barrels over. There was a lot of usage on the field, and people were driving up and down that with the telephone pole right in the middle of the roadway practically there. And I was wondering if I should go home and call the police, but then I'm like, oh, maybe it's okay to be using it.
It was
didn't
op-
look like it should have been used.
It was open today.
They opened it.
It was open today.
Hmm.
It was
Because
wide
I
open.
did not use it today.
There's a telephone pole almost right in the middle of one of the lanes.
Yeah, well, there's telephone poles right in the middle of Route
No,
62.
I know, but those
as
are
well.
marked, those
Yeah.
have cones next to
Yeah.
them. The one on that
Mm.
access road didn't have a cone next to it.
All I can say is we'll find out tomorrow, that road was completely open today. In and out.
Hopefully Reading Municipal
In and
will
out.
get the poles.
That's another issue I have,
Changed
because
out.
school is opening pretty quickly, and those poles have been sitting there for
I think they have a
long
commitment,
time.
I think they have a commitment to have the wires moved. They were working out there Saturday, actually. So my understanding is, and we'll find this out tomorrow till we
Tomorrow.
meet.
When you
Okay.
say tomorrow, are you talking about the principal's meeting?
Yes, yeah, the 4 o'clock meeting, yeah. Anything further on the building project?
Gonna be canceled too, right?
No, that's on. Okay, moving right along. We have school 2014-2015 school committee goals workshop. We need to schedule that.
Yes.
Any
We had
recommendations?
originally scheduled that goals workshop for August 6th. Other things took precedent over that particular date and action. So if possible, the superintendent-elect and I are available anytime after 4:30 PM on Wednesday, September 3rd. So we're asking if that could be a possible meeting date to establish your 2014-2015 school committee goals.
Works for me.
Works for me.
After what time?
What
did
day
you say?
again?
Well, I'm
Third
sorry.
of September.
September 3rd. What time would you like? 4, 5, 5:30, 6?
I can do
that,
anything
a
from
Wednesday?
4:30
Yeah,
on,
it's
it's
Wednesday.
fine.
Later is better.
How late, Cliff?
11,
She said after 4, after, what were you thinking of, Kathy, 4:30?
5 or 6?
5? Can people do it at 5?
Yeah.
I
Yes.
can.
5? I can do it at 5.
Very good.
Okay?
5 o'clock PM
On the 3rd.
on the 3rd.
Very good.
In the superintendent's conference room.
Yep. All right.
Wait a minute, wait. Superintendent's conference room, oh, so at the
At the old
high school
high school.
slash current middle school.
Correct.
C-129.
Slash administrative offices.
All right.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have the policy manual review. This is a lengthy policy and attached regulations. It's policy LEC regarding relations with booster organizations. I'm going to turn this over to Michael, and he's done a lot of work on this. I've had an opportunity to read through it, and I hope everybody else has. So Mike, why don't I just turn it over to you to highlight
Sure.
what the policy is?
So this is certainly a lengthy guideline document. And, I think the expectation here is to, make some slight changes to the policy that just essentially adds language that says that we'll be providing both booster and parent organizations sort of guidelines to help essentially allow them the information that I think they need to ensure compliance with all state laws and regulations. And I think that's the ultimate objective. And, the first page of the guidelines as it's laid out, I think the key things that we are trying to accomplish is that we, are certainly setting the expectations of how these booster and parent groups would collaborate and communicate with both the school committee as well as the school administration. We would allow them with necessary information to ensure that they are fully compliant with all the applicable laws and regulations. And I think really it's sort of our duty to try to help them do that. And I think another key objective is to ensure the mutual protection of not only the members of the various booster and parent groups that we recognize and work with and do business with, also the protection of both school, town officials, employees, and students. And I think it makes it clear as well that although these are certainly groups and organizations that we recognize that it's clear that they're separate and operate independent of both the school committee, the school district, and its policies and procedures, both from a financial perspective as well as from a policy and a decision-making perspective. So I felt like that was the clear, or essentially the key objectives of the policy as it's laid out. And I think the second, part of what the guidelines attempt to accomplish is it tries to then lay out the foundation of what are the laws and regulations. And I think the document actually clearly references links to a variety of state websites and so forth that I think allows these organizations, it really provides them a lot of helpful resources if they are unsure of exactly, who do we need to register with, who do we need to, what do we need to file, and what type of bylaws and requirements do we need to have in place. So I think it kind of lays out that process in a pretty step-by-step way that I hope is clear for them, that provides a very solid amount of information. I think it also then, kind of the next sections as you move through the document, operational and kind of organizational procedures, I think in a sense it provides very clear operational kind of do's and operational kind of don'ts that I hope these organizations and groups would find extremely helpful in, when their questions come up. So it is a lengthy document. Some of the other key things that it does talk about is fundraising, and if these organizations and booster groups, we all know they do fundraising. We all know how heavily reliant we are on the fundraising activities that they do and how much they help support and supplement the various amount of activities and expenses and trips that we count on an annual basis. It provides them with what our expectations would be as an administration and as a school committee when they do operate fundraising activities. Essentially, the goal there is just being to protect both our interests as well as their interests, as well as the students, first and foremost. Then I think it really is a section that provides recommended practices in a sense. We certainly speak with various amount of state auditors and so forth that we work with on a daily basis. Certainly, I do from a financial standpoint and operational standpoint. And there are key recommended practices when you're running any type of organization in terms of ensuring proper checks and balance and segregation of duties that should be in place, and this document attempts to take the knowledge that certainly we have learned over the course of our business and recommend it out to the various booster and parent groups that we work with on an annual basis. It does ask for evidence. There's some appendices in the back of the document. So it is asking that not only that they do submit some sense of projected revenues and expenses and a budget. There's an Appendix A that kind of lays out, I hope, an easy template of revenue and projected revenues in the various sources, as well as projected expenses that they would submit to the administration on an annual basis. It also requires a statement of understanding that these various booster parent organizations have read through the policy, read through the recommended procedures and guidelines, and we require that a sign off that they've certainly done that. And then the final appendice is an application for recognition of a booster or parent organization. And what this would be their various board members, president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, them indicating to us that they've gone through the proper procedures, followed the applicable laws and regulations, filed with the Secretary of State, filed for their own federal tax and ID number, which they certainly need to have. It needs to be separate from the schools, and have gone through that process. And we're just asking for confirmation of that. And I think the idea is if we get these documents, we would recognize them as booster and parent organizations that we would certainly want to and continue to work with and collaborate with in the best interests of the school district and the students. So I certainly know that the document itself, because of its length and because of its because it does reference several guidelines and requirements, can certainly seem burdensome. But at the same time, I do feel that I think as an administration, and I'll throw the question to the school committee, that we do have some sense of responsibility to provide these types of guidelines and recommended practices. Really to not, I think it's going back to what I said in the opening, to protect not only each and every one, member of their organizations and their groups, as well as the towns and the schools' employees and interests as well. So I feel this document does accomplish that. I think the administration feels that way, and it was drafted and put together with those objectives and procedures and goals in mind. So I think.
All right, thank you, Michael. Kathy, did you want to comment any further before we?
No, I fully support the expansion of the previous policy to include new language, as was shared with you in a tracked document that updates policy LEC. We did not have guidelines to operationalize this policy, and I do believe the guidelines that have been presented to you through Michael's research and development really do protect the interests of the school district as well as the parent organizations.
Okay, thank you. Let's start with the policy, the LEC policy. Does anybody have any comments regarding that? I'm talking about the policy itself, not the guidelines.
I do.
Okay.
Who else has some?
I do.
I do.
Oh.
Who are you?
My name is Tracy Conlon. I'm from the Badge Parents
Okay.
Organization.
All right.
Oh, good.
We're going to get to you because we're interested in your input, but go ahead, Karen.
Okay, so I had a lot of things that I was unsure of. There's a lot of definitions that are missing. So where is booster defined? Is this the only place it's defined in all of our policies? Or is there some other place that it's identified? Because the first sentence says, organizations having a strong interest in a specific student or school activity. Does that mean booster? What qualifies as a booster organization? So our policy should not be ambiguous about what is a booster and what is not.
Their definitions.
There's a definition in the guideline.
Okay,
Page
so we
one.
should say that in this policy that we're referring to I know it says booster organizations, but we should define it in
Well, I
the
think-
policy and not just the guidelines.
I think we could say as defined in the guidelines. I'm not sure we have to restate the,
That's fine as long as we say
definition
that
in
this
the,
is
in the
applicable to
policy.
booster
So
organizations.
can I stop you for a second there?
Yeah.
My simple one change, this is that the headline should be relations with booster and parent organizations.
That would
I've
do
got
it for
support.
me.
I've
That
got
would do it
support
for me.
organizations, but
Okay.
parent organizations, I
Or
think
support
support
organ-
covers,
support organizations,
and
yeah.
that's what I had, Mel, too.
Okay, now go back to you.
Okay?
Fine, so, yeah, again, as long as we cite that
And that
we're
should be
defining
repeated
it in the
policy,
guidelines.
Yeah.
support.
And then the last sentence bugs me a little bit, and I'm not sure how to correct it, but I just sort of, I'm not sure why this is here.
Yeah, I had a problem with
I
it.
mean, so I was trying to fix it, and I'm like, I don't know if I can fix this. I'm not sure why we say this. Is it because we want people to
You talking about the
careful
added
now.
sentence?
Don't.
The last sentence.
The added sentence,
It-
yeah.
It's almost like a threat, almost
The
like a
first one's-
threatening thing.
So let me just think this through. Care must be taken to avoid compromising or diluting the responsibilities of nothing. The school committee's authority is absolute, is what we're saying, and this policy should be adhered to. So we don't really need to say any of that. We should just cross it out.
Right, because in my way of thinking, it's our responsibility to make sure nothing is done.
Yes,
Because
people
we're
can do
asking
it.
them to do all these things and sign the check
It
off.
basically says, please don't hurt us.
Right.
And our responsibilities, and we don't need to put that in the policy
I agree
because
with you
it's a
on the last
policy.
sentence. I had
But
some
the
comment.
second sentence of that paragraph, booster proposed plans, I'm fine with. This policy outlines the guidelines related to it, something like that. Something's just not right about that last sentence.
Yeah, I agree.
So those are my two pet peeves about that.
Okay, thanks, Karen.
Yep.
Cliff? I'm sorry, Mel?
I just had the same thing as Karen, and then the suggestion for changing the name of the policy.
Yeah, and the name of the policy, what we're saying is relations with booster and support organizations. And then I think we should repeat that in the policy itself. The school committee recognizes
Yep.
valuable support offered by booster and support organizations having a strong interest.
But then it should say
Yeah.
as defined, organizations as defined on
that's-
page 1 of the regulations.
That's, yeah, and that's going to say as defined in the regulations. The only other thing I'd ask that we include on the policy itself is, and it's fairly obvious, but I think we need to make a reference in the policy that the attached guidelines must be complied with by all booster and
Yes,
support
that
support
definitely needs to
organizations,
be
okay?
there.
Yeah.
All right, so that's my comment. Cliff?
Uh,
Just on the policy now.
Policy subcommittee got this during the summer.
Yeah.
And we had a miss on some meetings in the summer and didn't actually get to review it completely with the committee in the previous meeting. But I've reviewed this, and my comments on the whole thing were really just to change department to district in a number of places throughout
Okay.
the regulation part of it.
The regulation part,
I
the
think
guideline part.
this is a long overdue
Yes.
guidance.
Majorly.
It's
Certainly is.
obviously, it seems as though
I will.
it's a little bit complicated for the organizations to follow, but at the same time, it's a law. And they probably ought to be complying with the law.
Yeah.
And we should be protected.
And I think what we're going to have to do, Cliff, is what Michael's going to have to do, and/or the, in some cases, the athletic staff, is they're going to have to summarize this for the organizations and probably have a meeting with the organizations to let them know what's required. It does look, and we'll get to that in a second, it looks more ominous than I think it really is in some cases.
I reread it again
Yeah,
today,
yeah.
earlier, and my first inclination was that it was pretty complex.
Yeah.
But on rereading it, it isn't nearly as onerous
Right, there are some basic
as it
things.
seems when you first read it. And I think, this is, again, something that we should have had in place a long time ago.
Janine, did you have any comments on the actual policy itself, the LEC?
No,
Okay.
just comments on.
All right, so let's go back then and start with Karen again on the actual guidelines.
Oh, fun. I like it to start. Okay, well, I'll just give two, and then Mel and I can tag team, because he probably has some of the same. Okay, so booster parent organizations, reflecting what we just discussed, is it booster/support
Yeah,
organization?
it should be support.
I agree,
Throughout.
support.
Yeah, it should be support organizations rather than parent. Because that encompasses.
Support, I think we can define
That
broadly.
would encompass the masters group,
Yep.
which really isn't a boosters group. That would-
It's not a parent group
Right.
necessarily.
Right.
So
This is a
that
small
carries
thing,
all
the
way
first
through.
paragraph. When we say recognizes the role, it's almost, I just want to highlight this, it's a necessity that we're supported by these organizations in order to do a lot of our stuff. I don't know if we should just say that, but not in the regulations, but that's what the ideal
Yeah,
is.
I hear what you're
you
saying,
know?
and I don't want to get too philosophical about the
No,
role
but it's
that
just
everything's
bugging
playing,
me,
but I want to
so.
just make sure we have guidelines that are understandable and, you know.
Okay, you're next, go. I
Okay.
have more, but. go.
Page 2, I have to, in general, say, I hear what Cliff is saying, but I don't know, I read through this and it really, a lot of places kind of came off as heavy-handed to me. So with that said, page 2, applicable laws, regulations, policies, and procedures, 3.3, the last 2 sentences, it says, as such, North Reading Public School employees should not be involved in the financial activities of the organization. That I understand. This includes ordering items with booster group funds. I believe we're violating that just about every day of the week now.
Yep.
So this is a big change in how we operate. For example, I know the school ordered banners for the new high school gymnasium. The school ordered those. Those aren't being funded by the school department. Those are gonna be funded by booster groups. Yeah, we ordered them, and now booster group's gonna pay for them. So if we're gonna change the way we do that, I think that's a big change in the policy, in the way things are being handled today. I'm not saying we can't do it, but I'm just saying that I know for a fact that's done a lot today. The boosters say we have the money, the coach goes to order something, the maskers goes and buys something. It happens all the time.
Yeah, and I
does,
think if
and-
you read the beginning of that paragraph, I think what it's suggesting is that these requisitions might have to come from the treasurer's office. So is that the way I'm reading that, Michael? And that the funds are actually turned over? In other words, require the funds
Right.
received by public employees or in connection with school sponsors must be turned over and deposited with the town treasurer to a municipal or school district account.
Yeah, it's just trying to make clear that it's 2 distinct set organizations. There's the booster or support group, and then it's the school department. And when there's something that's being handled by school department employees, technically it falls under 44, section 53, and it would have to be done through the town treasurer's office. If it's
Mhm.
not, then it's the booster or support group, and it can be handled, it's clearly independent and
All
separate.
right, so Mel's right, that
I
needs
guess
some
I don't
clarification.
understand, and I guess if you want to change it, it can be changed. I don't understand why we have to change that. Why can't, if a booster group is raising funds for Chromebooks, that's PTO, right? Or for smart boards, or a booster group's raising money for new safe football helmets. Why can't they raise the money? It would make sense to me that the football coach would, or someone on the football staff would be ordering the
I
helmets.
think what happened, I think it's the checks and balance piece, and I think it's the importance of having clear school, a liaison, a booster or support group liaison. It's, you know, if a school department employee is initiating the order, what's to not make potentially the school department liable for paying that order if there's not that checks and balances in place?
So if the funds
It's-
pass through the treasurer and then we requisition those funds from the treasurer, is that what you're suggesting?
We have a gift account.
Right.
Can you want to explain the
So
gift
the
account
best- the
process?
best-
This is why I think it's.
The best, I mean, we have, if a support group gifts the school department funds through a fundraiser,
Yeah.
then we would accept that by school committee and follow chapter 44, 53.
Yeah.
And deposit that into a district-wide gift account through the school treasurer, and then we would do the purchasing through through our
Okay.
typical purchase order process. That really is the best way to handle that transaction.
So
I don't
how does that
understand this. Yeah,
validate
I
this
don't
then?
understand this
If
then.
that's the case, then North Reading public employees would be
Well, what we're saying
ordering
is-
the items, but it would be
what we're-
done based on the funds going into,
What we're saying is if a school department employee
Yeah.
is going to be the one doing the ordering, then we need to actually accept that. Then the funds need to be gifted to us by that support organization.
okay.
We accept that as a school committee, deposit it in the gift account, and then we would follow our procurement process.
That happens every time you approve a donation through the school committee meeting. You will approve a certain amount of
Here's the
funds,
sentence
including
right here.
tonight, from the
This
But let me ask you a
Batchelder School
question.
Boosters
I was
Association.
going to ask on the one tonight. It says, a $3,000 donation to support the purchase of Chromebooks from the Batchel School. Have those been purchased yet?
You are approving the donation. That's what you're approving, and we're telling you what that donation is going to go toward.
Okay, so
But you're
those,
accepting a donation of funds.
And that money goes where?
That money will go into a gift account, deposited in a school department gift account through the town treasurer, and then once that's accepted and deposited, the department head in charge of, for the purpose, with the intention of that gift, would do the purchase order.
but
and
who,
purchase
so
them.
who's responsible in that gift account for segmenting all the money that comes in? We might have 40 booster and support groups, maybe 50. So the batch gives 3,000, and the Chromebooks only cost 2,700, and there's 300 left. I'm just trying to get at, how is that money kept? Are there 50 different accounts for each booster and support group in there?
No, so there's gift accounts per school and per, department, and they're tracked really by my office. But what we're saying is, the booster group is able to go out and order as they see fit, but if there needs to be there needs to be a clear segregation there between, if we're gonna be doing the payment, if we're responsible for the payment, we should be accepting the gift and depositing it through the town treasurer.
So what if
The
Nathan
booster
tells the
group is-
batch, Nathan tells the batch PTO, they go to Nathan, and they say, we want to make a technology donation. And Nathan goes, you know what we really need? We really need Chromebooks. And and he gives them the specs, what the Chromebook should be. The batch PTO then goes out and buys 20 Chromebooks and gives them to the school. Is that fine?
That's fine,
Yeah.
then we would accept an in-kind donation at that point.
But if
As
Nathan
Chromebooks.
says, they say we have $3,000, and Nathan says, okay, I'll order the Chromebooks, that's not fine. I'm just trying
As
to.
long as they gift that money to us,
Right, but if they don't, it has to be gifted to us first, is what you're
if
saying.
we're gonna be doing the ordering, is what we're saying. That's really the most appropriate way to handle that.
You need to accept that donation legally.
So again, and I don't want to belabor this any more than we have to, but on that particular paragraph, 3.3, picking up where it says, require that funds received by public employees or in connection with the school-sponsored activities be turned over and deposited with the town treasurer into a municipal or district account. I have no problem with that, but it says, as such, North Reading public employees should not be involved in the financial activities of the organization.
But we were-
What I think what we're really trying to say there is it's the financing activity, so they shouldn't be monitoring the bank account, signing checks on behalf of the booster
Okay.
organization, because they're independent of us.
Okay.
So that's
you
really
don't
what
want
we're
this,
trying to say.
maybe this so-called commingling of maybe coaches or whatever with the organization that's got to be completely separate and apart, and
We shouldn't be involved, the school department employees should not
I'm
be
not sure
involved
that's
in their,
worded
in their
as good as I
their
want it to be
independent, in their
then.
I have
finances,
a problem
because
with
they're
that.
independent.
all right, let's highlight that. Go ahead, what's next?
I got a few
I have
others.
more stuff, too.
I'll go, 313, I'll go for a few more, then I'll go back to you. 313 on the next page says, any booster, parent organization, and sport organization, activity that will require or involve any construction, expansion, or renovation of school facilities, property, or would increase maintenance costs shall have prior approval of the North Reading School Committee and the North Reading Board of Selectmen. I don't know why the selectmen have to be included in that. It's school property. So I would question having the
Strike it.
selectmen.
I recommend to strike.
What do you think?
I don't think it should include the selectmen either.
Fine, that's fine.
I think that we would have to,
Goes through both.
I mean, that you're talking about baseball
no
field's a
authority.
perfect example, you know?
Right.
They have
So-
no authority unless, what is it, like a capital purchase or something, or excess of 5,000? Is that what the issue is
So I
there?
would just say cross out in the North Reading
That's
Board of
fine.
Selectmen. Yeah.
I'll do one more and then you.
Okay.
Well, go ahead, Mel, why don't you go through and then
No,
Karen can
no,
finish.
okay, next page, 4112. No booster parent organization will organize pupils' response to school activities or solicit monies in the name of the North Reading Public Schools, any individual school in the district, or any interscholastic team. Rather, booster parent organizations will do so only in the name of the booster parent organization. I would say this one's violated even more than the other one, where you go, the kids go around, we're collecting money for North Reading football, we're collecting money for North Reading cheerleaders, they're standing at Stop and Shop with the canisters. I've never, I won't say never, I rarely have heard anybody say we're collecting money for XYZ boosters, we're collecting money for maskers. I don't know how I don't know how this is enforced. It almost seems silly to me. So I don't get it.
So,
Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, they're collecting money for the football team. It might be the boosters, but the money's going to the football team or the
I think-
hockey team or,
It's more like this, I mean, it's making it, the money's gonna be deposited with the booster organization in support of the football team, so it's just,
but how do you enforce that? I mean, kids are out, I have a bigger problem with the fact that there's never any notice of this stuff, and I see kids collecting at Dunkin', I see football players roaming my neighborhood a couple weeks ago. There's never any notice. That's what I have a problem. I don't care if they come and tell me they're collecting for the football team, but the fact that I'm always wondering why this is happening and we don't even know it's happening. I have a bigger issue with that, but anyway, so I don't understand how you enforce 4112.
okay.
Okay, Karen?
So I just want to make a general statement about this whole policy, because I think we're going to go and bean pick over all this stuff. We should never ask an organization who's trying to help us for more than we need, period. So I'm going through this, and all I can think of is, we don't need that. We don't need this. What do we actually need legally to protect ourselves as a school committee? And I'm not sure what the answer is, but I kept going through and saying, well, why do we need to know when their officers change if we already have a liaison in 4119 that is coordinating communication? And then I started to have the question in my head of, why do we need all this documentation? When does the burden become too much? So I would ask the school committee to think about that, because I don't know where the line is, but we might want to draw
Well,
one.
That's the problem I'm having too.
Well,
Okay.
again, a lot of this you can break it down, and if you would highlight this or summarize this, I'm not sure that the burden is that great, and I'm not sure that they aren't necessarily doing a lot of these things now, in some
So
cases.
I run one of these
Um,
organizations. I would be horrendously annoyed having to do this.
Do
And
what?
To,
Do
okay,
what?
submit, all right, we have to submit all of these forms. I would hate submitting this budget. I would-
disagree with
I would
that
be like-
completely.
I would be like, so why, I mean, I could tell you how much we're gonna raise this year and approximately how much we're gonna do, but a lot of these groups aren't that
No,
organized.
it's
So,
very
so I,
That's the problem,
I'm
Karen.
worried
That-
about
That's
it,
the
and I
problem,
just-
you know.
I
We
wanna know,
have-
what do we need? What do we need at the minimal level, and then let's add to it. That's sort of my thought
Me
process.
too.
Mel, what do you
I'm
think?
exactly at the same spot. This does not seem to me, this seems to me to go beyond what we need to keep these groups organized and controlled. That's my
And I'm not
overall
really
issue
being
with it.
critical, 'cause I
Yeah,
love that
I'm not
it's
being-
over, there's a lot in here for me to consider, and I like that because I don't have to think about it. So I'm not criticizing the execution, I think this is great. But I want to make sure it's agile and does what it's supposed to do.
Okay, Janine, how about comments? What's your position?
Well, having served as the co-president of the Hood School PA, I went into it having never done anything like that before. I found a lot of what is in here informational, and it probably would have been good to have known it at the time. If you have, a whole new board come in and you've never had a treasurer who knows how to file tax information and things of that nature, it's helpful. And as for filling out the projected budget, you kind of do that at the beginning of the school year anyway, or at least that's what we did, because we always wanted to have X amount in the bank account to cover the fall enrichment. So we knew that, we were gonna spend, say, I'm just pulling a number out, $5,000 for enrichment, so we knew we'd want to obviously raise at least $5,000. And at every monthly meeting, they show the expenditures and the revenues brought in. So this shouldn't be onerous for anyone to do, because it should be kind of already there. At least that's what I remember. And like I said, signing this, that you understand and acknowledge all of the guidelines, it might have been helpful for me at the time. Reading the bylaws of the particular
Yeah.
organization,
I mean,
that's pretty much all you have to do. And then
It's too bad.
they do change yearly, or at least every other year. You know, you might get a new president. I think you're only allowed to serve 2 terms. Secretary, treasurer, the same thing. So that's information readily available on most of the schools' websites. So I didn't find what they're asking to be over the top. And there's certain, you know, nitpicky little things back and forth. But I found it kind of helpful reading through it. But that's...
Well, and again, this is a good example of Janine having been with an organization that had some guidelines and some working knowledge of what was expected of them. I think if we looked around, there's some organizations out there that there is none of this. I mean, they're out there raising money, and we appreciate it, and we need it, but I think that they're not necessarily at the level of sophistication as the organization that Janine was with. Cliff, go ahead. What I'm going to suggest is this, that Mike, you've heard the comments from Karen and Mel, and I'm kind of in the middle with them, that maybe we try to go back and obviously Cliff to policy subcommittee, maybe go back and just try to reduce this or summarize it a little bit more and towards the line what Karen was talking about as to what's really necessary here. Some of it's a little repetitive, actually, too. I think there's some repetitive
Which is
things
good,
in here
because
as
it's a
well.
regulation, and we need some of that.
So, go ahead.
I wouldn't mind soliciting.
Well, we will. I just want to hear from the
Future members.
committee.
Okay.
I want to hear from the committee first.
I mean, present, not future.
Like, for example, Appendix A, I just think that's way too, why do we have to have that kind of detail?
Well, I don't know if you do. I mean, that's a template.
It's a
If you're
suggestion to
doing
us.
something that doesn't require all that, then you do
Well,
exactly what
that-
Karen just said.
To me, I actually want to see that.
But how do you know, Jerry, you're a football boosters.
Yeah.
Middle of the season, something breaks on the football, you know, the goalpost breaks, whatever. It's
Yeah.
something. You had no idea you were gonna
Right,
need that.
obviously.
That's not here. So I don't see how we can take this process and fit it all into this kind of policy and regulations. That's all I'm saying. I understand what we're trying to do. We want them to comply with federal and state tax regulations and other state
But
and
see,
federal regulations.
I would like to see this at the end of the year. I would like to see
Well,
something
the
like
end of the year is
this,
fine, but
you know.
I'm saying
Yeah.
the project,
Yeah, well,
predict.
Again,
That's why it's-
Why would we need to see it? I just,
Right.
why?
yeah, I'm just putting the burden on us to identify very clearly why we want certain things.
Okay, I mean, on this here, I can say why I'd want to see it. I'd like to know that if the donations are being made to the North Reading
Ex-support group.
ex-support
right.
group,
Yep.
okay? And those monies are being raised in the name of that group,
Right.
okay, that the money's accounted for. So if
So-
you raised $20,000 and you gave us $5,000, where's the other $15,000? I mean, it's
Well,
just
isn't
an
it also a way of
accountability.
tracking how much the support groups support or supplement the
Yeah,
school
I mean,
budget as well?
And this may not be the exact form.
Yeah.
There may be another form that we can use, so that it's not projected, but I'm looking at revenues in and disbursements out and seeing if it's
Yeah, I don't have a
accounted for.
problem with that.
But still, and I'm still raising the question, should we be doing that? Why are we doing it? And is it our job to monitor at this level, this amount of detail? I'm just saying, take a step back from it, because it seems like, well, it would be really good to know. But do we have to?
If we're accepting
That's all I
funds,
wanna know.
if we're accepting funds from organizations for school-related purposes, and those funds are being raised presumably in the name of the North Reading School District
No,
in
they're
some
not.
way, in
We
some
know
way.
we've disassociated ourselves from them in this regulations, Jerry.
okay.
We say they can't raise money in the name of the school district or any of the schools.
They're soliciting money, Mel, and you can play semantics all you want. They're soliciting money for the benefit of the North Reading School District. It could be athletic organizations, it could be arts, it could be anything, but they're soliciting it, and people are donating it. People are donating that money to these organizations on the premise that it's gonna go to the school district and it's gonna help support their programs. If that's the case, I think we at least need to ask how much money was raised and how much money was given to the schools. So, go ahead, Cliff, you were gonna say
Yeah,
something.
I think that there's a responsibility that we have toward the donors to kind of monitor those things that are related to to the organizations that are soliciting in the name of a school in the district or an activity within the district that's connected to us. And somebody should be doing that. And Michael has determined that he'd be happy to do that. So I think we ought to put that burden on him.
I know, but I really want to push this point.
Why do
If
we
they're
have to get
tax
somebody?
exempt and have already gone through that process and they're being monitored because they have to maintain their tax exempt status, then why are we providing that additional layer of oversight?
I'll tell you a little later in the
Paying the
meeting.
director's a salary of 3 times the annual wage of a median income family.
I
Okay,
just want to make sure the
Go ahead.
authority
You've
of
got
the
the floor.
district is maintained.
why don't you come up here, because nobody will be able to hear you if you don't.
My name is Tracy Conlon, and I'm the board member for the Batch Parents Group. So some of my comments are from the board and some are not, because we haven't met to discuss this. But the first thing I'd want to say is Ms. Ericetti is nailing it on the head. We are just the Batch, and I'm only speaking for the Batch. We are incorporated, we are a nonprofit, we meet regularly, we vote on things, we have our own bank account, we have our own EIN, we don't use the schools. So all of those things make us autonomous. We have oversight from the IRS because of our nonprofit status, from the AG's office, from the Secretary of State. I'm not positive you folks have the authority to do some of the stuff you're talking about. And you're kind of, I'm hearing sort of they're independent, but we're gonna highly, highly regulate them. And again, we're the Batch. Every month we have a meeting, we have a budget, we hand it out to people, we beg people to come to the meeting. Our books are wide open, we account for every single penny. I can't speak for the other parent groups or the booster groups, but that's how we do it. And we don't, there's never been anything untoward happening, as far as I know. I've been with the school for 3 years. And more importantly, we beg and plead for volunteers for the BPO, and it's very hard to get them. And if you add this layer upon layer.
What layer are you talking about? Because
the
you just stated
Yeah.
the exact things that we're
You said you're in
requiring.
compliance.
So you said you're in compliance with all these things, and that's the heart, that is the heart
But
of what we're
For
requiring.
us to do it on our own and have it here, for us to have to get it to you folks.
To get us
and
what?
To get us I don't have the regs in front of me, but the forms, the signing off, the presenting it at the meeting as an
Presenting
actual
amendments.
donation, the making.
Changes of officers. I can go on, yeah.
What's your organization again?
The
Batch
BPO,
elder.
the Batch
The
parents.
The Batch Elder School
Right,
Parent
so that tails
Organization.
on to what you said. Our mission statement is to raise money for the Batch.
Correct,
Not North Reading.
correct.
You have a goal of overseeing the money that goes to North Reading. We have a goal of raising money for the Batch.
Did the Batch secede?
Did the Batch what?
Did they secede from North
No,
Reading?
but we have a stated mission for our
I-
incorporation.
I actually agree with her.
See, I don't, and the reason is that I think you're doing most everything that our policy requires. So you're doing it already, okay? There are organizations that may not be doing it, or may not be aware of the fact that they have to do these things. And I think that your organization's a perfect example, and by the way, we're very grateful for everything you come up with for the school department, I'm sorry, for the Batch. But the bottom line is, I mean, you couldn't have a more, it's the Batchelder Parent Organization. How do you raise funds?
Parent donations.
Parent donations. And those parents, when they donate, they believe that money's going where?
We will, we don't get, we'll have a fundraiser, and if they choose to donate or buy something through that fundraiser, it comes into our general, and then we pay for enrichment, we pay for the field trips.
Right, right.
And we give Mr. Kalina
So
his money for a wish list.
That's all we're saying, is we want to make sure that those funds that are being donated, and we don't have to worry about the Batch Parent Organization.
Did you
But
hear
there
what
are a
she
lot.
said,
But
Joe?
I'm-
She said we give Mr. Colleen money for his wish list. That looks to me that can't happen anymore.
No, it's,
And it probably shouldn't happen anymore.
But see, we
That's
gotta
the
be
problem.
I
clear.
disagree.
That's the problem.
We need, so here.
Well, again, I'd ask you guys then, if you want to come up with some recommendations, because
I want-
otherwise what you're going to have, and what we've had, is basically a free-for-all as to how monies are raised, where monies go, and how they're spent.
I can suggest an alternative that would be much simpler. Why don't we just have a letter that they can, whoever is the signatory authority for that organization, to certify that they have met certain requirements?
And they have to recertify annually, and they have to attend a training, which should be in here, that we train these organizations how to apply these guidelines. I don't understand why you think this is so simple, because it's not. And I run a nonprofit, so that is huge, does thousands of dollars of stuff.
I'm not exactly
These
I
still
would
sure.
need to
hate
be
it.
regulations, by the way. The info in there, we would love that. We happen to get
They're not
to
the
know all this stuff
guidelines.
just by
That's
process
exactly
of
what
doing
it
it.
is. It's
And basic-
informational guidelines.
So give us a telephone number to call and say, hey, do we need to register here or there? Don't make it a regulation. Don't make it do this or you're in trouble, because I don't think you have, the IRS can tell us what to do.
I think, getting back to the objective is to provide guidelines. There's a front-end
It
policy.
doesn't say regulation.
Provide guidelines, nowhere does it say regulations, that just shows us that you've done exactly what you just said you did when you came in and when we first spoke. All the things that you registered with the Secretary of State, that you have your own EIN. So we know that you've done what you're supposed to be doing, and then we can continue to have a relationship that doesn't put one of your members or potentially the school or town members in jeopardy because maybe you haven't done the steps that you just said that you did.
And basically what we're
That's
looking
essentially
for
what it is.
from your organization is to have you Xerox about 12 pages of stuff that you already submit to everybody else and send it to him.
No.
And
No,
that's
no,
about
no.
it.
Not really
There's
even
only
that.
3
Not-
appendages.
Yeah.
But see, these are more than guidelines, because 4113 says, the boosted parent organization will, upon request, provide to the superintendent a copy of their financial records or a detailed treasurer's report. I don't think we have any right to demand that.
No,
Why
You
why
also-
don't, why
you
don't,
also
why
have a
don't we
right
have
that
a
makes
right
us
to
get-
ask
Because
for it, Mel?
it's an independent group. It's saying they will provide.
So again,
What if
and
we
this-
ask and they say
this-
no?
Well, if they say no, then there may have to be a thought about whether or not we're gonna continue to accept donations.
I see, I don't know if we have oversight over this, that's my.
You
Well,
have a
if-
regulation that makes us get approval from the superintendent.
I'd
First,
be
we have to ask
interested-
permission to fundraise, and then we have to get approval for our fundraising.
I
from the
understand, and that's the
superintendent.
point. You know the guidelines. You know the policies, and you're in compliance with them.
No,
Also-
that particular one, we're not.
Well,
We
there
don't.
there may be a few
Nobody
things
has
here.
been doing that.
There may be a few
I don't
things here
think.
that, again, have to be
Never been.
adjusted and maybe added to what you're already doing. There are, or may be, groups out there that are soliciting money in the name of the North Reading School District without complying with any of this, because they're not aware of it and they've never been told they have to do this. Or there could be organizations out there that are, soliciting funds that we don't even know about.
Well, I just want to hone in on the fact that I'm not positive we are that beholden to the school committee. I think we're all on the same page, we want the same thing, we want the money to go where it's supposed to go, we want checks and balances. I'm just not sure you have the authority.
Well, again, I'm missing your point. What is it that you do not feel that you should have to comply with?
Approval, asking to fundraise, approval, registering with the school committee. I'm going from what was in the transcript. Financials, you're demanding that all the groups become a 501c?
No,
That
we're
doesn't
not.
apply to
No,
us.
only if you're required to be. Only if you're
I'm not
required
gonna
to be.
take up, we're a 501c, so it doesn't matter to me.
All right, I hear you. I'm a little perplexed by it, but I do hear what your issues are.
I'm not sure why you're perplexed, this seems like a lot of layers to get where we both want to be, and I'm not sure we need all the policy.
You may be
behind
right.
it.
We may not need all the layers, but I do believe, that's my one person's opinion, that we need some guidelines that need to be complied with. Now, whether all these layers are necessary, probably not. And maybe we can narrow this down and focus a little bit more on it. I disagree with the position that there should not necessarily have to be any accountability to the school committee or the school department regarding fundraising. That's all. Maybe that's where you and I disagree. Okay?
But we're not, just so that I can close this off. There is some disagreement here, and I think it's important that we protect ourselves, because fundraising in the community needs to be done with an eye toward maintaining our district in the way that we choose to operate it through our policy. So I think we're not there yet. I won't approve this. Mel, I guess, I would love to rewrite some of this and work on it. I would totally volunteer to do that, as well as work with the community organizations so that they have a chance to have
I have
input.
no problem with that, Karen. You're gonna have to work through the policy subcommittee, okay? So
Yeah,
work with them.
it would be fine to
Um,
do that.
Janine and Cliff, again, I think obviously there has to be some work done on this. Where are you coming from as far as sending it back to the policy subcommittee?
I don't have a problem going through and revising it, and having sat on the Hood PA, like I said, it would have been great to have some of this information, being a newbie, never having done it. The person who was the treasurer was never a treasurer before, didn't, have the checks and balances. And it would have been nice to know that we were either not in compliance or that we were in compliance. So it's a layer, but it's a layer if you're doing it right. It's just a matter of check, 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 done. And the same with at the monthly meetings, we beg people to come, all incentives, parking spots, whatever it is. And we do hand out a monthly budget. And, as an executive meeting, we would say, okay, we want to, raise this amount of money for this, this, and this. So you are projecting what you want to do, and then you have the past years of saying this is what we did. So it's transparent. There shouldn't be a problem to put it there, and it's a quick form. It's just one form.
Right.
And then once again, you can only serve at a term for so long, so just the heads up of, hey, this is who's serving on the board, which is on the website anyway. Once again, it's transparent, it's there. It's just a matter of, so everyone's on board. And when I say everyone, I mean all of the different fundraiser, boosters, support people. So it's not like, I don't look at it as the school committee is looking to attack or to go, you're not in compliance, you're a bad organization or anything of that nature. I think it's more of a helpful tool. And granted, some of the wording isn't necessarily what, as a committee, we'd like to see, but I think it's a good platform for other organizations that maybe are not up to par, or maybe just North Reading for Education. They popped up because we needed help. And thankfully, there's very intelligent people on that committee that they knew to do all of this stuff. But if they're, if they were green, then this would help them to set up the organization the correct way. And I think that's the main goal.
But that's
of
That's a
it.
good
So-
question. Does NRU
Yeah.
submit a budget to us to tell us what they raise and what they're spending, et cetera?
Well, Mel, probably not, because the
Because-
guidelines aren't in place.
But why should
Well,
they?
well,
Why
they
should
don't,
they?
don't donate to the school anyway, if I
No.
understand correctly. I'm sorry if I used that as a bad example, but,
But
Um,
here's what I'm trying to understand. When my kids were in elementary school, they'd come home and there'd be a wish list, and all the teachers said stuff they wanted for their classes. We donated money, and I'm assuming that went to the principal.
You're assuming.
I'm sure it did, because I saw the stuff.
You're sure?
Because I trust people. And so are we gonna get in the way of that so they can't do that
No,
anymore?
we don't, Mel, you're creating a barrier here that it's like.
No, we're creating a
trying-
barrier with this-
No,
with these
this- you-
guidelines.
So you're suggesting there shouldn't be any policy or guidelines
Okay.
for the
No, I'm
collection and
suggesting it should be very different
dissemination
than
of
this.
funds? Okay.
Very different
That's
than this.
fine. We can agree that they should be different.
There needs
but
to be accountability. But this is too much, and we need to
Then
reduce
fine,
it
let's
to
work
make
on,
it
let's
acceptable.
work on getting it to
That's all
something
we're
that people
saying.
can vote on.
I have a
Because
question.
I'm hearing different things here.
I don't know, do the 3 elementary schools still get together and kind of have a little talk about, I'm doing an auction this year, that year, or this is when I'm thinking of doing the calendar, that kind of stuff? Do you guys still talk?
Not formally, I don't think so. I mean, we're friendly, so we probably talk, and I do believe we balance auctioneers, I think, but we certainly don't sit down as 3 groups.
Well,
And
Right, not to discuss the nitty-gritty of it, but just kind of like, so you're not having an auction on the same day, because I know Beck
yeah,
does
oh
it every
yes,
other year.
informally,
and-
yeah, we would
okay.
say, oh, this is going on.
Would they be open to sitting down with either the entire board or just the?
No, you're not gonna sit down with the entire
subcommittees?
board, it's gonna have to be with the subcommittee.
And just say, look over the guidelines and say, yeah, this works for me, no, this doesn't, oh, I didn't know that, this is helpful, you know.
I think that's a fantastic idea.
All right, let's do this. Obviously, this is not ready to be voted on for first reading. So let's send it back to the policy subcommittee. Let's see if the policy subcommittee can set up, again, with Michael, some way to solicit input, and certainly from our committee members as well, okay? Karen, Mel, if you guys have got input that you want to submit, I think it all should go through the policy subcommittee, see if we can get this to some place where we've reached a happy median on how much is necessary and how much isn't necessary, and get something that we can put in place.
I do have one more question, though. Aren't PTOs completely different types of groups than athletic boosters? And, I mean, I think this is where I don't see how we have any oversight of PTOs. I really don't. I don't understand
What
it.
distinguishes
Depends on how
them
they
from a
organize it.
booster group as far as oversight?
I
They're-
think
To
I
me,
think it's a different
the-
kind of organization.
I
The
don't think
oversight
it's
comes
the-
from the agreement by and between the people doing business. So if there's no statute or if there's no requirement, it's a whether or not we, in dealing with the organization, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking generally, with the organizations, these are the terms in which we're gonna deal with you. And if you're gonna tell us, hey, don't ask us what we're doing with the money, where the money is coming from, then we have to make a decision as a committee.
Yeah.
Are we going to accept that group as somebody that we want to do business with? That's all.
I
And I'm not
disagree with
suggesting
you.
that's
I
the
think
case here.
what it has nothing to do with the type of group. It's whether you've incorporated, whether you have your own EIN, your own bank account, that's what makes the group autonomous. And your recourse, if you don't like or don't feel as though we're being accountable, is to not accept.
That's
the
exactly what I
funds.
just said.
Right.
That's
But
exactly what I
the
just
simple
said.
piece, and that has
Okay.
to come out in this,
Yeah.
and it's not
That's-
too much clearer.
That's what I'm saying.
All right.
Okay, then we're.
Okay. All right. Jeff, I want to wrap this up, but go ahead.
It's going to go back to committee, it's not as far from the done deal, but just don't forget to take the perspective of the donors. I think Cliff hit on this one, and
Yeah.
to me, that's what this is all about, because it's about the money. I mean, it's just, they want to do their own thing, and I don't, Mel, I'm not sure quite following why your distinction is if the wish list, if the batch is spending their own money, then that's a different issue than, you know, someone from the school department spending the money for some of these things that you're making. a
It's
distinction
adding
there.
bureaucracy, that's what it is to me. And
But just, I mean, you might not want to take on this role, but I, as a donor in town here, when I see people coming down the street for football or Masters or whatever group it is, or the batch when I was there, you know, the charitable overseer group, Compass, and, you know, you can look up and see if they're spending all their money on administration, or if it's really going to the people here in town. I mean, I've stopped giving to certain groups because they use professional fundraisers, and I don't think very much
Right.
of the money is going towards what I think it's going towards.
Right.
And I would like to have the school committee have at least that little level of oversight to say, whoa, wait a minute, you know, you're going out and going door to door to people here under the names of supporting whatever group it is, and, you know, 10 cents on the dollar is actually getting used. I would like to have that oversight somewhere. Now, you may decide that's not the school committee's job. I like that idea.
that's my belief, it's not the school committee's job.
Yeah, I
So
don't agree
That's
either.
where I differ
But
completely from.
I do think that if an organization is tax exempt, well, it's like, you know, you're the buyer. You go out and you make donations. You have to inform yourself what you're donating to. We have to be informed about, on some level, what this organization is about, so that we don't take money from an organization that is not accountable to our policies in general, does not reflect well on our
So
district.
if you believe that, then we do have some disagreements on
we have middle
how this is
ground.
done, but we're
But
fundamentally
we-
on the same
yes.
page, I think.
But I
Okay.
do think we could do a better job of training the community in our organizations, which would be a separate thing from this, of helping them understand how to do this properly. So I would expect, and we could even
I
write
would-
it in our policy.
I would expect that would be the step that would follow us getting some type of
Yes.
guidelines in place. Okay, so we're gonna send it back to the policy subcommittee, and
We do
people are
not
gonna
have a meeting scheduled right at the moment.
Okay.
For.
Well, we'll get to that in a few
When we
minutes then.
have
Yep.
one scheduled, I'd like to get all of the inputs, a day or two before that, so that we can, look at them ahead of that meeting, and we'll be able to.
And I think what Mel and Karen are saying too, that we want to get it down to the real basics without a
essential.
lot of,
Sure.
you know.
Okay, I'm saying something a
We'll
little
take all
different.
inputs.
All right.
I'm saying I don't.
You're
think-
saying you don't think we should be involved?
I don't think we have the
All right,
responsibility.
then you and I
over
have a
some-
fundamental difference
Yes,
on
over
that.
some organizations,
Okay.
especially the PTOs.
Okay.
I
all
have a
right.
question, kind of, to Mike and Kathy. Did this not come around due to the fact that we were trying to figure out in some way how much the budget is supported by the different support groups? How much?
Well, over the course of last year, you know, I meet with all of the chairs and vice chairs of the parent associations across the district. And throughout our conversations last year, particularly during the budget process, there was conversation about the various parent groups and other support groups putting together financial summaries of funds that they had raised. And this came from the parents. This did not come from me, because they wanted to impress upon us as leaders how much the support organizations supplement the locally appropriated budget. I thought it was a great exercise. Through other conversations that I've had with Michael when he came on board, and different guidelines that he developed in other school districts where he worked, these guidelines were put into place by those other school districts because they felt it was important to have a shared common understanding around the mission and vision of the district, the various missions and visions of the support organizations, so that we were all working for the same common good, and it was a collaborative process, and there were guidelines in place as to how we would work together. And through conversations with this committee that did request that guidelines be put together, Michael took a little of what he did in other districts and put this together as a starting point. Unfortunately, I became very ill when the policy subcommittee was supposed to meet around this, and it went right to a school committee meeting that I was unable to attend because I was still sick.
Well, that's all right. I think it generated the type of discussion that,
It's a
we
very
need to
good
have, and,
discussion.
and to get back to something that's going to be more.
Right. We do, because we as a school district accept these funds, we need to have guidelines based on the law that govern the actions of the school committee and those that work for the school department in accepting those funds and using those funds for a specified purpose. In the absence of guidelines, we are doing what we think is right, but we might all be doing something a little differently.
What you just said is fine, as long as we comply with the law and accepting the money and how it's spent. That doesn't say we have to get budgets and estimates and all of that kind of stuff from the organizations. That's where that's where my issue is. I think that becomes restrictive and in some ways threatening.
In that sense, the policy should be about accepting funds, what we allow and what we do not allow, and we need to set those requirements up instead of, I'd rather write a policy than approve guidelines, because I think guidelines are procedural and not really our authority either. But I think the policy should be more than our relationships with these organizations. It is fundamentally about what circumstances we will accept funds or a gift or resources or whatever it happens to be. Gift is probably the right word, right? So when do we accept things? And we also, as consciously, as a school committee, have to think about, well, we want people to give money to these organizations in the right way. They have to do their own homework because they're responsible people. That's just what life is about. And if we set up something that we don't need to do, that then gives a disincentive for people to donate, then we are not doing our job as community reps.
So clarify, Karen, for me again,
Mhm.
where you are on this. Because I think we're back to the same place. You're saying that if we discourage people because there are too many regulations, but are you suggesting there shouldn't be any regulations other than what's required by law, and we'll leave that up to the organization? Or are
I'm
you
not
suggesting that we
sure.
come back with a policy, or whatever you want to call it, to give them some guidance as to how we want to do this?
I'm just saying that this is complicated for me to understand.
I
It's
think
already
it-
incredibly complicated for
Okay,
me as
so
a pol.
we can agree on that. We
But
can
I
agree on
still
that.
think it should be, we need to identify the fundamental issue that we're worried about and make a policy about
Okay,
it.
all right.
And not overthink the regulations first.
Okay, all right, let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the formation of a new middle school club. Kathy?
Yes. In your packet, you will see a proposal that was brought forward by Principal Catherine O'Connell, and it's a proposed pilot of a new Spanish club for middle school students under the direction of middle school foreign language teacher Jean Houghton. In your packet, you can see the one-page overview that this particular club would be offered to any student in grades 7 or 8. She would limit the size of the group to 25 students. They would meet 1 day per month from September through April, so she's projecting 8 meetings, and they would meet after school from 2:30 to 3:45. What she also detailed in her letter were some of the potential offerings that this club would engage in and participate in, and a potential field trip that they would take. And so this would be considered a pilot club for the 2014-15 school year and the 15-16 school year. So this does require your discussion and vote for approval for any new club to be established.
And there'd be a stipend for the,
There would be a stipend
Yeah.
for the leader. That would be in the pilot phase, $500.
okay. And there would be a student activity fee associated with this if they haven't already paid it for
That's
something
correct.
else. Okay. All right, discussion? Anybody?
I love this
I
idea.
have, I think it's a wonderful idea. I know Spanish is, I think, the larger of the two languages at
Mhm.
the middle school. I would love to see this go to, have a French club as well, is what I'm trying to get to. I don't know if it's possible, or if that would be another club that maybe can be started after this one takes off or anything like that, but I think it's a wonderful idea. There's no better way to learn a language than get immersed into it, and one of the better ways to get immersed is to obviously have candy, while investigating the Day of the Dead, making the sugar skulls, putting it to food, and, role-playing and things of that nature. So I think it's a wonderful idea. I would like to see it, like I said, expand into French.
Anybody else?
I'll make a motion to approve the pilot of the Spanish club at the middle school.
Okay, we have a motion from Karen,
Second?
second from Janine. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, none, motion carries by a vote of 5-0. Mike, briefly, on the development schedule for the FY16 budget.
So I know it seems kind of unbelievable to already be talking about fiscal 2016 budget, but we did put together the budget development schedule for your consideration. It is very similar to the schedules that have been put together in the past. We would begin with discussing the large capital plan, and that would begin as soon as September 8th, which is the next school committee meeting. So we would present the large capital plan to the school committee and ask for discussion with a follow-up vote on the September 22nd meeting. The reason why this is a little bit earlier than maybe it has been in the past or was last year was the Capital Improvement Planning Committee is asking for all requests and any revisions to the 3-year requests that were submitted a year ago be submitted by September 30th this year. So their deadline is a little bit moved up. They want to get going a little bit earlier than they have in the past. So we're hoping to
Really early.
discuss capital in September. We would then move on to on October 14th with the discussion and hopefully a vote on the FY16 budget goals. Then during October 20th through November 21st, the administration would be going through their budget process, and budget workshop documents would go out to the budget leaders and the principals, and they would be due back right before the Thanksgiving break. That would allow the administration time during the December, January timeframe, February timeframe to start working through several budget iterations and trying to put together a preliminary budget. I thought on the February 9th school committee meeting, we could perhaps have, could be a brief conversation, but a discussion on the state budget that generally comes out, governor's preliminary budget usually comes out at the end of January, so we would have some preliminary numbers to just kind of talk and think about at the February 9th meeting. On the March 9th meeting, we're hoping to present the preliminary budget to the school committee at that time, That would allow the school committee to review the budget, seek community input in March and April. April 6th would be the annual public hearing on the FY16 budget. We don't have these dates firmed up by the Finance Committee, but around the April 9th timeframe, we would present to the recommended budget to the Finance Committee and hear their recommendations and discussion. April 13th, there would be a follow-up school committee meeting and discussion on the budget presentation at the April 6th public hearing. And then we would ask for a vote of the recommended budget by April 27th. The selectmen vote would be scheduled for around May 4th, and then town meeting is scheduled for June 1st.
Any questions or comments from Mike on the budget schedule?
Move to accept, approve.
Second?
Okay, we got a motion by Mel and a second by Karen. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the budget schedule, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries by a vote of 5-0. We have minutes for the May 27th open session.
Before I make a motion to approve these, I still owe the minutes for the meeting where we interviewed Mr. Bernard. I have minutes, I just haven't finished them up yet. I took the minutes for that night.
Okay.
Because Kathy wasn't here and.
What was the date of that, Mel? That was the August?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So I have that.
All
I'll
right,
send those
okay.
to Ann and Kathy this
Yeah.
week.
And I
Yeah.
have the minutes for
Oh, yeah,
the
they got-
August 8th.
Right, which was the one we had in
Yes.
the, okay, good.
Okay. All right, I move to approve the regular meeting of the school committee for May 27th, 2014 minutes.
Second.
Motion by Mel, second by Cliff. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, motion carries by a vote of 5-0. No budget update at this time. Staffing, Kathy, do you have a brief staffing report?
Very brief. In your packet, you have a list of the staff that have been hired to fill positions either through retirements or their new positions or vacancies. And we have a couple of positions that are still to be filled, but for the most part, all of the positions have been filled and we're ready to go. So I just wanted to provide this overview to you.
This is exciting.
Very good.
It is.
I look forward to seeing some of them.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. We have a donation, let's vote on this before it's too late. We have a donation from the Batchelder School Parent Organization for $3,000 to support the purchase of Chromebooks. Do you have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Janine, second by Cliff. Any further discussion?
Gratitude.
Hearing none, with the gratitude, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, none. Motion carries by a vote of 5-0.
Motion we
All right. All right, we got that in.
That was very brief.
Jeez. Subcommittee report, Finance Planning Team. We did meet on, was it Friday, Kathy, right?
Friday, August 22nd.
And we actually, Bob Messeri took us through the town meeting warrant. There were 23 articles, I think, as usual. There's several are going to be passed over. We do have on there, guys, the naming of the room, the art room at the middle school, high school for Ellen Adele. That's article, I think, number 12. I think these are listed, Kathy, in the order that they've numbered them, article number 12. Also, they have as article number 23, the citizens petition naming of the new middle school on here as well. And then there's a number of zoning bylaws that are being amended, and a lot of them have to do, I think, with the medical marijuana. There is and I didn't completely get the full gist of this, but there is a request for some money here. I think it's article number 10, which appropriates money for the J.T. Berry Center, and Mike Prisco's been working on some kind of an arrangement with the developers over there to try to, I don't know, Mel, have you heard?
It's a state, we're trying to get back control of the property to market
Yeah.
it, but we're gonna have to pay some money to the
Which
state
seems
for,
like
right, for things that they've put into the property or advertising they've done in the past or whatever,
Yeah.
we need to compensate the state.
And
Right,
then,
it seems like a good idea to me.
Yeah, he explained it in more detail, I'm sure we'll hear it that night. We also, Bob Messeri, Bob talked about the free cash. It's gonna be between $1 million and $1.5 million, which they all felt was very positive.
Yeah.
That should be certified by September 15th. They felt we were in very good shape for fiscal year 2015. That was pretty much it. Kathy, did you have anything to add to that?
No, that's correct. That's just
Okay.
about it.
All right. Next, on the agenda. There's no other subcommittee reports. We have an administrative report from the superintendent.
Yes. Just before I get to that, the subcommittee schedule, we need to set a date for policy. Excuse me, the evaluation subcommittee. Are you looking to meet prior to the September 3rd goal-setting workshop? Or should we try to connect via?
I think we could do it via email, given the fact that our work is so minimal. Ginny, do you think so?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you. And athletic, I believe, has a date set for September. So
Is it-
in terms of administrative report.
September, is it September 9th
I'm
or the
sorry,
16th? Do you
no,
know?
it's later
that?
in September.
September 23rd, maybe,
For what now?
at the next athletic subcommittee?
23rd? I think it might be the 23rd.
It is the 23rd.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So 9/23. In terms of the supplemental administrative report, the large book that is sitting underneath your supplementary report is your 2014 selected Mass General Laws, published by MASC. Those are published every year. So now you can
Some light reading tonight.
get rid of your 2014.
These are overburdensome. Let's get rid of them. We don't need any laws.
My
We don't-
new sleeping pillow.
We don't need any
Yay!
stinking laws.
In your packet is an overview of the new hire orientation on Wednesday, August 27th. We'll welcome our new educators to the North Reading School District, and a copy of the two-day schedule is attached. It does go for 2 days, the 27th and the 28th, but you are invited to attend the luncheon on Wednesday, the 27th, which will be held this year at the Batchelder School beginning at 12:30 p.m. So if you do want to come to the luncheon, please let me know so that I can make sure that you are included in the plans for providing lunch.
What are you
Is anyone
having?
else going?
What are you having for lunch?
I'm not quite sure yet, but
Okay,
it's
all right.
always good.
All right.
Also in your packet is a letter that was sent out to faculty and staff from me regarding the welcome back presentation for faculty and staff on Friday, September 5th, beginning at 9 a.m. We will welcome back faculty and staff to the new school year in the new high school auditorium. That's the plan. Refreshments will be served at 8:30 a.m. in the cafeteria. Chairman Venezia will make his remarks on behalf of the committee. I would like to invite all of you to attend this year's presentation. We will be concluding the presentation with a special inspirational performance. It's a secret, but I hope you can make it. Any questions about that?
Any questions?
I've been practicing for a couple of months, so I hope the performance doesn't disappoint.
Practicing what?
Modern dance.
Practicing what?
It's a modern interpretive dance
Oh,
performance.
jeez.
Contemporary, as they call it on.
All right.
Dancing with the
In
Stars.
terms of the high school principal posting, Superintendent-elect John Bernard and I have been meeting. We've already met twice, holding transition meetings. In fact, the second one was today. We have many more scheduled between now and October 17th. The most pressing item on the agenda at this point is filling the position of high school principal. And when I put this administrative report together, all I was able to tell you at that time was that the posting would go out tomorrow, August 26th. But this evening, I was able to present to you, as a result of our meeting today, a complete, full timeline of events, as well as an invitation to apply for the position of the North Reading High School principal. And the invitation to apply is really a posting that outlines all of the qualifications and job responsibilities that will be used to advertise for the position. The timeline starts with tomorrow, August 27th, when the position will be posted. There will also be an invitation for search committee members issued by Mr. Bernard. It indicates on this search process timeline who will be sitting on the committee, and he is asking that a member of the school committee sit on the committee to appoint the new high school principal. So I'd ask that the school committee members discuss this and.
Who's
I just raised
interested?
my hand, because I have nothing to do, so this would be great.
Karen did an exemplary job on the superintendent search. Is anybody else interested?
You're gonna have to fight me for it.
No.
Karen, you got it.
Okay, good.
I will convey that to Mr. Bernard. And you can see there are a series of events that will take place between August 26th and when Principal Bernard anticipates announcing the selected candidate as the superintendent-elect on October 3rd. So it's an aggressive timeline with an anticipated start date of October 20th.
Very.
More to come. Very aggressive.
Any
timeline.
comments or questions for the superintendent? Okay.
Okay. Also in your packet is a notification that Library Director Helena Minton is retiring. A reception will be held in her honor on September 13th from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Flint Memorial Library, and a copy of that flyer is attached. You also received, attached to this supplemental report, copies of all of the updated collective bargaining agreements. There should be 5 updated collective bargaining agreements that were successfully negotiated last year. So you all have binders with contracts in them. Please remove the old contracts from your contract binder and insert the new contracts into your black contract binder so you are up to date.
Just note that my binder is now pink because I did not abide by the black color.
binder, yeah.
Nope.
All right, well, give Ann a call. And finally, on the administrative report this evening, I'd like to read a statement to the committee and to the public. To all residents, business owners, and visitors of North Reading, effective immediately, please be advised that the North Reading School District has suspended its relationship with the North Reading Athletic Boosters Association. It is recommended that all citizens refrain from making any donations to the North Reading Athletic Boosters Association. I remind everyone that the North Reading School District and the North Reading Athletic Boosters Association are separate entities. At present, I'm unable to comment further on this matter.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Our meeting schedule, and we have several meetings scheduled. I just lost my agenda. Who's got it in front of them?
September 8th.
September 8th.
Will we definitely be at the Learning Lab?
As of right now, yes.
Okay.
As of right now.
Be positive.
I'm just asking a question.
As of right now, yes. Subject to change. What's the next one?
September 22nd.
September
And
22nd.
town meeting October 6th.
October 6th, we're meeting at 6:30. Everybody, that enough time because
Where will we meet ahead of time? The
The-
library?
Yes,
The new media center, I should say.
the Library Media Center.
Library
Okay,
Media Center.
because we're gonna have to, either between now and then or that night, vote on the recommendations for some of these warrant articles that relate to
Would you
us.
rather that be
Might wanna
6
put them
p.m.?
on for the next meeting, yeah, it might be easier.
The vote for the naming?
No, to vote to recommend certain warrant articles that we have something to do with. In other words, there's a.
Yes.
Well, we have two, right?
We're gonna need at least two.
Well, we have one that we submitted, then there's the petition.
Right, so there's at least two, and I don't think there's anything else that directly pertains to us, so we should do that prior to the town meeting.
So at one of the September meetings,
It could be the next one, we might as well just do it.
September 8th,
Yeah.
to vote on the warrant articles.
Yeah. We don't have to make a recommendation on all of them, but the ones that relate to us, we should have one. Anything further from anybody? Okay, take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Cliff, motion, Karen, second, Janine, third. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, motion carries by a vote of 5-0.